Here we go, guys. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, everybody, to Hash Church Season 12, Episode 31. We're ripping through this year, and yeah, I'm excited to see you all in the chat there. Bingo Lombardi holding it down. Let me just gotta delete some of the, or mute some of the my voice that's coming through. There we go. Okay, there it is. Press 1 if you overslept. I didn't oversleep, actually. I've been up for a while. Why does it seem like, why would you say I overslept? I am confused. Now, I've been chatting away, setting everything up. Perfect. Glad it sounds good. I did eat a couple of edibles last night. I won't lie. And I ate one kind of later after I ate another. And I thought, ooh, this could knock me out. So I woke up today around 8:20. I usually wake up around 8, give myself an hour, but I still had 40 minutes. Hello, Arn. Welcome, Kepper710 and Lord Sav and Mr. Faceland and Mr. Cheezel, Booth 966 and Anthony Melendez 2605. What's up, Deadly 840? We'll see what happens. I didn't have a huge show planned today. I have invited a bunch of folks. We'll see if they can make it. Okay, sorry, I'm getting questions and interests. All right, so as always, let's start off by shouting our amazing sponsors out because, well, I wouldn't say we couldn't do it without them, but it's sure nicer to do with them. So give me a second and I will open up the proper pages. Here we go. All right, here we go. Sharing it up. Want to shout out Hash Church. Obviously, we're super proud and super stoked to be sponsored by Puffco. In my opinion, it's the company that's helped redefine the modern concentrate experience, really from the Peak Pro down to the Pivot and the Proxy. Puffco really continues to push innovation with, I hate to use the word premium, but with premium devices designed to let your hash shine without combustion. If you appreciate flavor and efficiency and the true expression of solvent extracts, well, you can check out what Puffco has to offer. And we just want to send thanks to Puffco for continually supporting Hash Church and really the global hash community. I've said it before, there's no other company that has mainstreamed hash and dabbing more than Puffco and, of course, Jolly Rogers. So shout out to that whole team and shout out to Chelsea. We are on this journey with you while you fight and kick cancer's ass. All right, next up, well, we're not going to do the bubble bags. Next up, we're going to mention the press club. Jeffrey and his whole crew over there, we'd really like to thank the press club for their continued support of Hash Church. You know, whether you're pressing flour, sift, or bubble hash into a beautiful live rosin, the press club offers some of the highest quality rosin presses, bags, and accessories in the game. They're literally committed to helping home enthusiasts and professionals produce the cleanest solventless extracts with confidence. Big thanks to the Press Club for helping support solventless education and this community every week. It really does mean a lot to us. And like I said before, I'm really trying to get the Press Club on side to come on and do a Hash Church with us. Obviously, shout out to Bubble Bags. We are the originators. We've been doing this for 30 plus years. Yes, we did not absolutely create the bags, but we did pioneer them, and we've definitely earned our place in the history of water extraction. You can head on over to bubblebag.com if you want to support us. And in the meantime, let's start Hash Church. Hope everyone's really doing well. I had an amazing week. I was in Michigan, actually. I went to Michigan to link up with Mock Technologies, who I got to say, you know, to me, at least, they were really, really proper. They hosted me very beautifully. They brought me out to Michigan, put me up in Auburn Hills, which was very close to my dear friend Aaron, the Heavy Icer X, which was pretty awesome to get on with him. We ended up having a good time. See if he's around, actually. Give him a little introduction, give him a little invite, I should say. So yeah, I met up with Heavy Icer X, who's we've had on the show before. He has super inspirational story. Obviously, he was a pharma zombie. He weighed 280 pounds. he's down to 135 pounds now, and he's an awesome regenerative organic ganja farmer who has a huge appreciation for resin and the quality of resin. So it was really nice within half an hour of landing that he showed up at my hotel. He had 6 to 10 jars of like beautiful, really like lovely melty bubble hash. So that was nice to see that. Let me see if I can find my pictures here on my, oh, here we go. Yeah, I was going to show a picture of the rosin. I have a lot of pictures actually of Michigan, but here is a picture of Aaron's bubble that he brought to me. This was just one jar, so you can see like incredible care, air dried, grown properly. The guy just did an incredible job and does an incredible job. He also, is very helpful online. He's always helping people in regards to growing proper cannabis, finding proper genetics. So I just wanted to thank him. He had a pipe that I was able to use. He was just all in all a really awesome dude. And I met a lot of awesome dudes, I gotta say. Michigan always surprises me in the sense on how incredibly diverse and mature the hash market is. There really is a mature hash market in Michigan. People know what they're looking for. They know what they have. A lot of them have very high quality, not just rosin. There's some melts out there for sure. So we love that. Just checking on the chat here. It was a great time smoking some of Aaron's melt. Savvy Terps, dude. Savvy Terps was one of my highlights, bro. So after I linked up with Aaron, I went and started my course at Do I sound deeper? Do I sound deeper? It's possible. I spoke a lot at that event for 8 hours straight during my course. So shout out to Katie as well in Colorado, who's in the chat room right now. But Savvy, who I'm not allowed to call Savvy Terps when we're in person with, you got to call him his name. He's like, I don't really do the internet name, but today we're going to call you Savvy Terps. We linked up, we shared a golf course on, at the event. So we shared a golf course at the event. This was kind of one of the cool shots. One of our homies had a nice little Puffco. Shout out to Derek from Ohio and Marcus, who was also in our golf thing. So let me kind of explain how it started, and we can kind of go from there. I wonder if Savvy wants to come on and talk about this. I will let him know that if he wants to, he can, but if he doesn't want to, he doesn't have to by any means. Chat with me if you want, because he'd be better off to tell the stories that we have if I had another person to kind of bounce off of. So I did just send you an invite, Savvy. You don't have to come in if you don't want to. You don't have to go on camera if you don't want to, but I was literally just going to show some pictures of us. So you let me know if you want privacy and not to be shared. It's just our small community. I think there's a couple hundred people watching live right now, so it's not a massive thing by any means. Not even 122, so we're even lower than that. We gotta bump up our numbers. What's Colin saying? Oh, Colin's probably not around today. Oh, he's driving his mom back home. Well, we'll maybe see him a little later on. No problem there. Oh, that's a 5-hour drive. So yeah, we won't see Colin later on. So have a good day, Colin. We appreciate you. Let's see if Savvy's willing to come in. So let me go back to the Michigan event. After meeting up with Aaron, I basically linked up with Luke from Mock Technologies. What's up, Grandmaster Level? Shout out to you, homie. I know you got people over and a bunch of shit going on for you as well. I really tried to go see Russ, Spartan Grown, because Grandmaster LED, we've acquired a beautiful building. I think it was an old school. Thomas sent me the information on it quite a while ago, a huge building. And Grandmaster LED, of course, is using Michigan kind of as a point to get, lights out to the rest of the US. So yeah, check out Grandmaster LEDs. We're shipping direct from the US now, and Spartan Grown is who you get to deal with down here, and he's just an awesome fucking guy. And thank you, Bingo Lombardi, for throwing up the Grandmaster LEDs. I got some good videos from my buddy the other day. his grow looked like a spaceship with all the under canopy lights from Grandmaster and the over canopy. I was like, dude, this is starting to look like a spaceship for real. So back to the Mock Technologies. I did want to show this thing from Mock Technology because they're building this thing called the Icebox. And I really thought this was cool. It's for their ATS machine, and they're going to put it inside this cool box. And you can see on the side of the box here, you can see that they've got all the electronics, compressor, everything is on the outside of the box. And yeah, it's really awesome. I'm not a huge proponent of, going hard on being in a cold room while you're making bubble, because I think you really only need to collect the bags and take it out of the bags and do your freeze dryer thing in a cold room if you have 6-star bubble hash. Obviously, if you're in a warmer room, this is going to cause a bunch of problems. And so these guys have created this box. I was so impressed. Now, the box cost around $30,000 to buy, which is cheaper than a Sambo Creek filtration unit. So it's not an overly high cost. Now, as manufacturers, they made an even other option where they said, or we can just send you all the components and you can build it yourself, and then we'll only charge you $16,000. So you can get that entire box. It's wicked cold. We had it set at about -5. And it was a real cool thing. They had the ATS setup in there, which I can show you on one of my videos here. Let me just see if it's got to populate real quick. And then we can show a little bit of going inside and him talking about the unit. And I'm not sure if I shared this unit already, but let's just go in and check it out. Let me know if you guys can hear.
We'll step inside and show you we've got the ATS unit hooked up, ready to run at our partner facility. And we'll just take a look real quick. So
as Fish would say, step into the freezer.
And so yeah, you'll see in here we've got the evaporators in here and the fans. That's all built into the turnkey system. But the ATS unit, it's designed, all the electronics are made to operate in this cold environment, so there's not going to be any issues with that. But essentially this is dry sift. You can use the ATS unit for a part of the process or the entire part of the process. What we do is we can change out the micron screens inside of the unit. So depending if you're starting with your 220 material, or if you've already done some sifting to do a little bit of isolation of the heads, we can change this from anywhere at 220 down to a 73 or even smaller. So put the material in, start it, walk out, let it run for 15 minutes, come back in, and we'll, depending on the part of the process, collect the material in different parts of the unit. So we'll go through the actual unit itself a bit tomorrow.
Yeah, but also just for the camera, like give them a little bit of an idea of what's going on in this machine. You've got the screen on the bottom, you're going to put your material on the top. So here we have a 70 to 73 micron screen. So I always say 73 because that's the year I was born.
Fair enough.
And so I always know when people copy my bags, if they have the 73 micron on there, I'm like, respect.
My man.
And they have the 70, I'm like, oh. But the 70 is obviously a screen that when we're sifting for purity, we're collecting from the top.
Right.
We want the heads to stay on top because the tails, the capitate stalks, and the cistillate hairs, these are brittle components that can kind of, I guess they're getting like sucked through into the screen, correct?
Exactly, yeah. So what happens is we put our material in, anywhere from a half to a full kilo of material in, and what's going on, this wand underneath here is actually going to pull a vacuum. It pulls a vacuum outside of the wand, so it creates a bit of a cyclone-like type of an environment.
Yeah.
So the material gets popped up and orientated vertically, and then the vacuum sucks the stems down through the screen. And the screen, actually, that's where the trichome heads will stay on top, and the stems and all the plant material, the waste material gets collected out down at the bottom of the cyclonic separator. So literally, we just put the material in and we start the system. You can go back outside of the icebox and start it. 15 minutes later, we would come back. We would harvest the trichome heads here from the top of the screen. We would take out the cartridge where your waste material is, or your plant material, and rinse, wash, repeat. More material in, start it, off you go.
I love that you guys have taken care of one of the most important pain points, which is cleanliness. Dry sifting, you can get resin all over the goddamn place. Having this sort of cyclonic put, you know, filter bag to really take away those tails that end up in the air.
Yeah.
This is an important factor.
For sure, there's a lot of different styles for dry sift extraction, right? I think the whole design here is to keep all the material in the process, whether it's what we're looking for or whether it's the waste.
Yeah.
It's just a really clean, it's really designed for GMP labs, EU GMP on the international scale. Like, it's really taking your process kind of to the next level and doing it in a way that's a perfect operating environment. So,
Yeah, it's cool, man.
yeah, no, we appreciate it. So we'll take a step back out real quick and
How cool is that? Is that not the coolest thing? All right, I just got to quickly send the invitation out to Savvy. So this was at my course at Mock Technologies. And one of the things I got to shout these guys out for that was really impressive, and I mentioned it before, they paid for the entire thing. It was a customer appreciation week or weekend, and nobody had to pay for the course. There was probably 25 people there. And when we did the course in Colorado, I think it was around $1,000 to $1,500 for the course. So it's a big amount of money that Mock Technologies was willing, you know, to sort of, oh damn, Savvy just came in and I missed letting him in. You were close, Savvy. Try again and I'll hit you really, really fast. Yeah, I saw, Katie. It's brutally hot. It was also very hot in Michigan, I'm not gonna lie. So I really was impressed with the fact that Mock Technologies was willing to pay for everyone, for everything. The course was long. I spoke for 8 hours. I went through in-depth water hash, freeze drying. We did a lot on dry sifting. We did a lot on building the lab and finding the right material, i.e., you know, material that's going to be a worthwhile to venture into. And all around it was really nice. And it was awesome because Savvy was right in the front row. So, you know, and because I kind of met him right before, he was like, hey, I'm Savvy. I was like, oh shit, like this is a homie that I've actually talked to online, which is always kind of a fun thing. And we hit it off great. And a lot of the times that I was talking, was I not looking right in your eyes? Oh, you're muted. Here, let me ask you to unmute. It'll make it easier. It'll be in the bottom left-hand corner. It'll say audio next to the little camera there, and we'll get you. There you are, dude.
talk to online.
Oh,
Sorry.
you want to turn off YouTube audio next?
Yeah, that's what I did.
Dude, you did it so fast, and you got the hashish in shirt on.
Yes, sir.
That's awesome, dude. The hashish in. I got that shirt too, bro. Nice to see you, man.
Yeah, good to see you, brother. It was a great weekend.
Yeah, well, I was just about to get into it and tell stories, and I thought when I saw you in the chat, I was like, well, we could probably you know, go get Savvy in here and have some conversation. I'd love to hear your perspective on the course, because I'm sure you didn't know what to expect or whatnot, but you were there for the whole 8-hour thing. What did you think?
I think it was great. The course, honestly, I came just to see it in action because I found them here on Church, and then I reached out to them then just to see how it worked. I went just to kind of see it work. I didn't honestly think I would want to buy one. And until I saw how efficiently it worked, and it kind of opened my eyes up to how viable dry sift could be after this. I never thought I would go backwards in time to trying to make dry sift a thing for me here now. And yeah.
It's wild how it's kind of come around full circle, because generally when Bubble came out, there was two things it did that dry sift was not giving to people. And that was simply yield, right? With Bubble Hash, we know when we run it and we get 20 or 23%, it's 23% heads. It's actually the yield of heads. It's what we're looking for. You know, it would be like if you opened a pizza box and you were trying to get all the pizza out. It's like, it wouldn't be that difficult. You get all the pizza out. You're like, I got 100 or I got 98% of all the pizza out of the box. There's some crumbs and stuff. But yield was terrible. So people would run. Oh, nice. Is that some of Aaron's?
Yeah, this is the GG4.
Dude, just full melt bubble that like liquefied. All the heads melted and conglomerated.
So beautiful.
It's really nice bubble. Very different from all the rosin we were smoking, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The effect is just so much more complete from it. The sun grown, and I love it.
Well, Kyle in the extract seller, Kyle just said 6-star full melt over everything. Aaron's hash was beautiful. It was such a nice thing to have at the event and have throughout my week. So I really want to thank him. The unit we're talking about is, of course, the ATS. I had never used one commercially before. What I was impressed with, what it really blew my mind away with, is that we've gotten to a point with water hash where if I buy fresh frozen, it's going to be frozen and it's going to be fresh. But if you want to start doing dry sift and you're like, oh, I'm going to buy some dry sift and just clean it up, that dry sift will be in a bag on the ground of the lab for 3 weeks, which is exactly where the dry sift that we got came from. So I was partially bummed out that we didn't bring the right material to start with, but I was delighted to see, because, and I'll tell you why, guys, because good morning, Super Realm, because the hash itself, the heads, when I put it up on the microscope, you could only see one head intact. And what everything else was they were heads that had been melted together and conglomerated and sort of shedded and shredded and shaved, and they were sharp and they were little yellow rocks, but like not round and nice. And within it was the most incredible amount of cystolith hairs and capitate stalks and contaminant. And I wish I had those microscopic shots to show right now, because it really kind of sucks that I wasn't smart enough to take pictures of the microscope, because really, like, you could see, wow, that is very contaminated. Anyway, you have some photos?
You can't really see it on my phone. I'll try.
If you hold it up, you could, or you can send it to me and I'll put it on the computer. Just send it to me. Yeah, send it to me. That looks good though. Holy shit. That was on the TV too, not the microscope. So what we're going to do, Savvy's going to send me this photo and I'm going to share it with you guys and show you something that I discovered about this machine that I don't even think the company themselves discovered. Because when we got the bubble, because we also cleaned bubble of cystolith hairs, which was also profound. I'm not sure if you got those photos as well, but just send as many over as you can and I'll put them up on my computer here. But the way the material looked was not, at first we did bubble and we showed the picture and it was nice. It was mostly heads. People were like, whoa, that looks already cleaned. It's like, no, watch. And we ran that for about 15 minutes in the ATS, creating that cyclone and that vacuum and sucking all the contaminants through and leaving the heads on top. Now, keep in mind, the contaminants, it's still going to have the 45 and the 25 micron because we were using a 70 micron screen. But what I noticed was that when you get those rocks, when your sift is old and it's conglomerated and the person hasn't done the proper SOPs, there's no way you can do static. It just doesn't work. You can't do static tech with your hand, with a machine, with old keef that's been conglomerated. And I'm just thinking there must be epic amounts of that keef in the world, like tons and tons and tons of it. And so here's a machine, the ATS. Now, don't get me wrong, it took a long time. Must have been 40 minutes, but keep in mind, you could put that stuff in for 5 hours if you wanted to. All right, so I think Aaron's sending me a couple of things here, a couple of pictures. Perfect. And then Savvy, you're going to send me a couple too. Boom, there it is. There it is. I wonder how I get all of these items. Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay, so, and I'm not sure what order these photos are in. I don't know if this is pre-clean or after clean, but let me open this. This looks like it was after the one that I'm pointing to. And there's still a fair amount of cystolith hairs, these white little stalks that you guys can see, but trust me, you have no idea how many there were. And all of the yellow is basically conglomerated gland heads. So we cleaned this sift up substantially. I would say we cleaned it up to the tune of, I don't even know, maybe 50% THC from 20% THC. It was really low dry sift material.
It's probably less than 20. It was terrible, that bag.
But it showed the value of the machine, because most people are thinking they're going to throw it. Now, the bubble did too. When we put the bubble in and we cleaned out all the heads and took a picture of just the heads, it looked really good. We removed like 90% of the contaminant out of bubble. And another thing I found out for the value of this machine for me is You know, there's a couple of things that I don't like doing when I'm making bubble. And I've been talking about this for years and years and years. And when we designed the bags, the diameter of the screen bottoms can only take so much material. So a 5 gallon was a couple hundred grams of dry or a kilo of fresh. 32 gallon was around 5,000 grams of dry or 25 to 30,000 grams of fresh. And the reason this is because when you have a sieve stack and all of your material is getting washed off and falling through the screens, you end up getting more contaminant falling faster, covering those top screens and becoming a catch. So all of the hash makers know when I say, what do you do when you're making bubble and you've got a lot of 220 or a lot of 190? Well, we get the spray nozzle out and we start spraying the hash because we want to blow that contaminant or the heads. If there's good heads in there, we want to blow them through the next screen. And we kind of want to keep doing that, but you never blow the stalks completely out. You just move them around. And what it does is it takes a lot of time over the course of a week when you're doing that. If you're pulling 8 bags and you're pulling 3 sets of bags a day and you're doing it 5 days a week, you're doing a lot of extra spraying. So what you're doing when you spray is you're either making it so you need to have a chiller and a giant reactor full of water and a good hose that's like a hose that can be cleaned properly, that's not going to breed and collect microbials, much like the thick, proper lab hoses we use on the Whistler Tech equipment. So, you know, you want to be doing, oh, geez, I lost my train of thought real quick. I just had this split second. So basically, where was I, Savvy? Bring me back.
You're talking about the cleanliness of the lab hoses and pretty much
the spraying. So if we didn't have to do all that spraying and we could just make the bubble and then take the bubble at the end and toss it in an ATS and leave it for however long it needed to be left for, and you can use different screens on the ATS, so you can put the 70 on a 70 screen and the 120 on a 120 screen and the 25 on a 25 screen, and you could suck all that contamination through the bottom while leaving everything pure on top without really putting someone to labor. You know, making someone like be doing this job full time. Now, you're saving the time and energy that you're not having to spray all the time, but more importantly, the amount of water that you put back into your system with spraying really offsets the whole system. I like to create closed loop water hash systems where we're washing through vibratory screens and we're constantly pulling and extracting and pulling and extracting. And when you're not dewatering the hash, it ends up all catching in the bags and building up and building up and building up. And depending on the quality, sure, if you're doing commercial runs for rosin and you only need to pull, you know, the 159 to 45 or 73, it makes life a lot easier. But when you're pulling for melt, and you're running all 8 bags and you're running them 3 or 4 or 5 times a shift, you know, that becomes 40 to 50 bags that you're spraying at. You offset the water. Now, what I've seen before as well is a lot of people don't have chillers. A lot of people don't have proper systems. They're jerry-rigged up the yoo-hoo. And so they're putting room temperature water back into their system, and they're taking that 0 degrees or 32 degrees sweet spot and they're lowering it below threshold, or raising it, sorry, in temperature, right? Plus whatever, 32, 35, 34. Once the sweet spot of freezing is gone, the brittleness of the trichome heads no longer want to break off and sink. Instead, they stay gummy and they stay attached to the stalk, and they don't do what you want them to do. So for me, the ability to spray less water and not even have that whole system, maybe I could have a much smaller one because I'm still going to need a little bit of that spray. But I find the amount of water sprayed into making water hash is absolutely astonishing. And if I had an ATS, I suspect I would stop doing that. So the machine did surprise me. I thought it was pretty cool. And the fact that you didn't have to stand there and work it, you could just dump a half a kilo to a kilo into that bowl, put the lid on, and it almost felt like baking. The thing feels like a high grade, like proper pan or pot that you're cooking in. And so yeah, I really liked it. And that freezer was cold as fuck.
Yeah, it was too cold for me to stand there for more than 5 minutes with just a shirt on. Yeah.
Dude was in shorts.
Yeah, it was cold.
Luke was a savage. So Anyway, so you enjoyed the course. I mean, it was long. It was definitely long. People kind of had come from all over. I think it was a good group of people. There were washers, company owners. There was a couple of terpene companies, like just people. There was a guy from a vape company. You know, it was interesting that when you don't have to shell out the $1,500, it wasn't just hash makers. You know, it's almost exclusively the hash makers that will shell out money like that to learn information like that. But to be given that information for free through the company Mock Technologies, I really was impressed that they did that.
Yeah, I can't thank Mock enough for inviting me, man, because, you know, compared to everyone else in the room, you know, everyone has multi-million-dollar businesses, and it really meant a lot that they reached out to a caregiver and invited me as well.
Hell yeah,
Because
man.
like I said, I didn't think that that was a viable product for me before because of the scale. And after seeing it and using it, I wanted the thing I really the reason I came is to see how viable it was for freeze dried bubble. You know, like that's what I wanted to see, honestly. And although the bubble was already really clean when we put it in there, how fast it got to above 90% heads is what really astonished me. It was like 10 minutes of running that. You know, and they dumped what 400 grams and then just walked away from it, you know, like, and 10 minutes later came back and we were 95% viable heads.
It was unbelievable. It surprised and impressed me for sure. I was happy about it. And just also the same kind of idea. I look forward to having a machine like this in my lab. It's kind of a no-brainer. It's not cheap, like it is not cheap, but if you're a commercial entity, especially in Canada, because I mentioned this before, a lot of that material that they're pulling out, you could pull out a lot of the tails and contaminant that realistically is kind of a hash product. Now, it's hash product that people have been smoking as hash for millennia, but it's not hash product that actually gets you high. It just is the contamination that ends up in Canada. We cut our hash in Quebec because there's a 30% maximum THC. So what people cut it with is CBD, and this is a double no-no. It's very hard. So when you cut your hash with CBD, you end up with hard as rock balls. I think I have like probably one or two of them in my thing here. I think this is the CBD ball right here, and it's hard. You know, if I played with it for a while, I'm sure I could. You know, it's just like almost frozen silly putty. I can start warming it up and getting it soft, but this has CBD in it. It was cut to get to a 30%. And I thought, what if we were taking all the tails out of bubble or sift and using that to cut the product, because it's something people have been smoking. It's something that's in hash. But what it isn't is it's not CBD that will affect the receptors in your brain and dilute the high that you're looking for on a hash that has already been diluted down to 30% THC. Now you're also, you know, because it's 50-50 or 60-40, you probably got it down to 14 or 13% THC, because the majority of what's binding on the receptors in your brain are the CBD molecules, not the THC. So it's interesting how it plays out. I thought the machine was cool. I'm definitely going to find one for one of my labs, maybe my Michigan lab. I don't know if I'm going to do some demoing with them. If we do, I'll definitely let you know, and you can go check it out with Papa Sif down in Monroe. Shout out to Dogman Troop.
Yeah.
This fucking guy was so generous and such a kind human being. I mean, aside from yourself and Aaron, he was definitely one of my highlights of the event. And we took an awesome picture out in front of his house. I'm going to share that with the Dogman and the terp savvy terper. This was out in front of his spot. It's got the American flag, which I loved. I was like, oh, we got to take the picture next to the American flag. And we did take the picture next to the American flag. This guy was so generous, and more importantly than generous, it was the vibe and the welcoming that he offered us. First, myself and who did I go over there first? I think it was just me and Aaron. We went over there and we smashed a bunch of, he's got this beautiful hookah pipe. I mean, I'm serious. This hookah pipe is a substantial. It was impressive, right?
Yeah, it surprised me how smooth the hit was off of it with the large chamber size. It was really, really nice.
Yeah, I feel like I made a video or two, but I can't I can't exactly find it right now, but and his dog Zelda was awesome. Zelda was like top-notch husky puppy, super beautiful. I mean, I'd have to share her as well. So this is Zelda. What an awesome dog. I just loved her vibe. She was so gentle and so beautiful. And just
For the
all in
age.
all, what's
She's
that?
like for the age, she's like 2.5 years old. She was such a calm husky, like in the presence of unknown people, like so very calm. But it kind of speaks to the whole environment he's got at his house there. His whole house, as soon as you walk in, is like massively welcoming. That it's just that the energy is very, very calming when you walk in. So to imagine the dog would be any other way is
100%. And then he's just got this beautiful hookah. I'll show a little shot of Aaron ripping this hookah. Like this thing, he was dropping half gram dabs in, like for real. Quarter to half-gram dabs, and we were all ripping one at a time. It was such a good vibe, dude, and so generous with the gummies and the chocolates. And I mean, he made our golf tournament for that
I'm
matter. You know
through
what I
them.
mean?
I'm through them already, man. The ones he gave me, I'm like, this jar was full. I've been eating them like crazy.
Dude, that is awesome that you're already fucking crushed those out like that. Holy shit.
They're good.
And then the next day, after the course, actually the night of the course, we had a very unique experience, which would be hard not to talk about Bryce on Hash Church, would it not?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. You got to take the honor on that one though, man. That
I'll
is an
start it off.
experience.
I'll start it off for sure. So after the course, Luke and the Mock Technology guys invited us all to a meal, and we were going to go to this Italian restaurant, and then it kind of got changed, and then it maybe got changed again last minute, and we were like literally driving to the place, and he called us up. He's like, "Oh, we can't go there. There's no room." So we make a right, and we go to this place called Sidecar Sliders in Auburn Hills. Nice restaurant, nice people. And it's just me, Aaron, and Savvy. We show up first. We put some tables together for at least like 16 people because we know we have at least 12 or 15 that are going to be coming from the course. And so we sit down, and I don't think we're there really for more than 5 minutes, 3 minutes.
30 seconds after we
Yeah,
said
okay. So that's what I'm thinking. It was super, super fast. The Golf Classic was a blast. Big Token. I remember him. He kept telling us, remember me, I'm Big Token. I'm like, all right, brother, I'll remember you. So we ended up, he comes up to us, this guy at our table, and he's a pretty stout, maybe 35-year-old guy. Pretty kind of looks like a high school wrestler. Like he's probably a wrestler. So he comes up to our table, and in very politely, he says, hello, my name is Bryce. I just moved here yesterday. I don't know anyone, and I was wondering if maybe I could join your table. And so we were like, all right, come on, have a seat, Bryce, join us. So Bryce sits down, and he's kind of quiet. And what I would say is, when he sat down, okay, so I'm with two people. I'm with Aaron, who's a hermit, and I'm with Savvy, who has military training. And so between the two of them, they're both like, no, I don't really, this is inside their heads. They're not saying this physically, but Aaron's like, he's like, yeah, I would never have done that ever with a stranger. And then you were kind of like, kind of set my flag off a little bit, just paying attention. But they were both willing, because when he asked us if he could sit down, I'm like, sure, dude. Like, come on, man, join us. Like, sit with us. This is great. You should be a part of our scene. And then I told him, I said, look, we got a bunch of people coming. And, we're all weed people. I said, we're all weed people. And I don't think he heard me. I think saying weed. Did I say weed or cannabis?
You said cannabis. Yeah,
I said cannabis. He didn't get it. Which thank God he didn't, because that's why I missed some of the discomfort. Now, he kind of was like vibrated mildly lower when I said it, but he was like, oh, okay, yeah. And then he just started talking to us, and he was very conversational. He was able to communicate with everyone kind of in their own way. He started with us. I ended up leaving the seat that I was sitting across from Savvy and Aaron, and I just kind of moved around the table because I wanted to visit with everyone that was there. And a lot of us actually did that throughout the night. We ordered a bunch of cheese bread. I remember, well, that guy, Bryce, when the cheese bread shows up, he's like, hey, do you mind if I have a slice of cheese bread? We're like, fuck, of course not, dude. I mean, the cheese bread was like a giant pizza. I've never ordered garlic cheese bread that showed up literally 2 feet long and a foot and a half wide and deep dish Detroit style, like an inch. It was absolutely mental.
And layered with raw garlic underneath of it too. It was like
Raw
garlic.
garlic cloves, absolutely.
Oh,
Welcome to
that was
Tim
good.
Clark. We're just talking about Michigan, so hang out with us, buddy. We'll get into some other things. But your name came up with Aaron while I was in Michigan, and I was like, fuck, we haven't invited Tim to Hash Church in a long time. Maybe he's got something to come and share with us as well. So welcome, Tim Clark, the Deep Search Selections in the house. We're talking about Bryce. We're talking about a guy who didn't know us, who came and sat at our table and just engaged with us in Michigan. Now imagine I leave, more people show up, I go and sit with them. I think it's during this time, Savvy, that you guys kind of realize that Bryce is anti-cannabis.
Yeah, well, it kind of happened in that conversation in the beginning because he didn't know what hash was, and we tried to explain it to him, and we're like, yeah, we make hash. We're all hash makers in one way or another. And he's like, hash? He said it was like two S's. He's like,
Right.
hash? What's
No,
that?
no, you said we are hashish makers, and he goes, hashish. What's that, like a Mediterranean thing?
Yeah.
Which was the funniest fucking quote of the day. It was so Midwest. It was so like, oh, like hashish. What's that? Like a
Yeah.
Mediterranean thing?
It was the
Fuck,
way
were
he
we?
said it.
It was the
Yeah,
way he said it. So at that point, we realized Bryce has no idea what we're all here doing, but that shouldn't affect things. We'll just hang out with Bryce. I didn't get that experience with Bryce. A lot of other people had amazing experiences with Bryce. Chris, who was our golf buddy, he actually exchanged numbers with Bryce, which we were glad that he did, because let's get back to the red flag that Savvy was experiencing. And let's go back to the fact that Savvy is very well military trained. Okay. His flags were going off. Would you say there was something strange about our experience with Bryce?
yeah, I want to say first that he was probably the most polite person that I've encountered since I moved up here to the Midwest. He is like the exact epitome of what a Midwesterner is, just extremely polite, very, very
Awesome.
present. At the same time, like as soon as he pulled up to the table, I felt kind of like this coiled energy in him, like where he had some kind of turmoil going on, and we kind of found out what it was after, not what it was, but like he
We
was
we
talking.
confirmed it.
Yeah, confirmed.
We
Yeah, he
confirmed
was.
it. So there was this underlying tension with this guy that came up to our table. Keep in mind, he's sitting and talking to almost everyone at the table. It's almost like he was matching energy, because it wasn't until he got to the Philly guy, who was pretty aggressive in his own right. And he said something about some coach in Michigan cheating on his wife, and this triggered Bryce. He got a little upset and he ended up leaving. He said goodbye to us. He shook my hand, but he squeezed it like a motherfucker, which I squeezed back, and it was a whole wild experience. And I had talked at the course earlier about, be careful to not miss your manifestations, because sometimes your manifestations will show up in something that repels you. And Bryce was an amazing experience for this, because there was a repellent energy that he had. He was intense. There was turmoil going on, and it was right below the skin on this guy. And I mean, to the point where when he shook my hand and he left. Of course, Savvy is like watching him through the window and paying attention. We're all like, oh, Bryce is gone now, blah, 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 blah. Savvy's like locked in on him, watching him walk across the street. Well, he walks across the street to a church, and he tries to get into the church. And then he walks over to the other door and he tries to get in there. And I guess when he doesn't get in, Savvy could tell the story better because I didn't witness it, but he put his hands on his head and shook his head or something. He did some sort of like,
He just got upset, and he had a baseball cap in his pocket, and it's like, you ever see like a kid that got made fun of put his hat on and just kind of like pull it over his head, down over his eyes, kind of like, and look at the ground. He kind of did that, and then just kind of was like talking to the ground and walking up. I could tell he was physically upset. He must have had some kind of life experience that got shook up by the guy that when they were talking about whatever that caused his outburst. But
He
It was
wasn't
very
drunk either, I would say. Bryce was
no.
not drunk. He had a beer with us, and that was it. I felt towards the end of the event that we did Bryce a great justice by allowing him to sit with us and hanging out with him and sharing time with him. His intense energy was repellent. It was a bit scary. I won't lie. When he left, I kind of was like, damn, is this how like places get shot up? Like there was that kind of an energy. Like, is this guy going back to his car? But I think in the end, and thank God one of our friends exchanged numbers with him because he hit our friend up the next day. And this, we could be completely off on this, but I really felt like that guy was going through some massive turmoil, and just allowing him to come and sit with us at our table. It was very brave of him to ask to do that. And although the energy in the hermit was repellent and the energy in the military man was repellent, and I did have a little bit of a fear, just a little bit, when he first left, I think it's good to show love to people. I think it's good to be open and not always be like, hey, get the fuck out of here, dude. Like this is a private table. Like, get the fuck. We could have easily given him the get the fuck out of here. And, I don't have to tell Savvy that like grown men are going through it, in particular, military men. We talk about it all the time on Hash Church with Etienne and the wonderful work that him and Michael have been doing with veterans around the US and the world for that matter. Men go through it. We have a lot of shit on our shoulders, and there's not really too many places where you can kind of go and talk about it. And I just felt this energy that Bryce really just needed to talk that night. It didn't cost us anything except maybe a few people feeling a little uncomfortable, which I'll take, and it did feel, I'll be honest, it felt like it could pop off at any minute. It really did feel like with Bryce that it was like he was so polite, but there was this underlining tension that was, and then he got into it with a few people where he's like, weed is bad. He was shaming one guy saying, yeah, you're a father. That was you. You're a father. It was like, so he got into a bit of that, and that would have been enough reason right away for us to kind of be like, you know what, dude, get the fuck out of here. But I mean, getting someone through the night, like that guy could have gone home and shot himself in the head. He could have hung himself. He could have,
the energy he was putting is like he was kind of trying to edge someone into starting an argument a little bit. But everyone was just very receptive because we had all just had an amazing day together.
Yeah.
And normally, like I probably would have argued with the guy when he said that to me, and I'm very glad I didn't, because of the conversation that we had after when we were reflecting on it. And I think you're right, and I don't want to talk about that here because it's just if God forbid the guy watches or something. And he was very, very, very nice. But you're right, you don't know what people are going through, and when you sit down, and it takes a lot for a grown man to walk up to another grown man.
15 people at the table. He sat with almost every single one of them, dude. I was like, dude, you have a superpower. Like, I don't know what you're going through, but you have a superpower if you can sit and make friends and talk to human beings that way, because sometimes it's just a conversation that you need to get, like just to get you through that next day.
I wouldn't have done it, so much respect to him for that. And then, whatever happened after that, I'm glad that, I think you're right. We did a justice for that dude, because everyone, there was something very weird going on about it, but he just kind of hung out and like migrated to every person that was at the table and had his own little microcosm with that person, and then moved on.
And then once again, and now keep in mind, a lot of the people at the table, they had never met each other, so they didn't even know if this guy was at the course. And then they'd be like, "Who is this guy?" And I'd be like, "Oh, he's just a complete stranger that walked up to our table and asked us if he could sit down." And they'd be like, "Are you fucking serious right now?" I'm like, yeah, that's exactly who he is. So anyway, shout out to you, Bryce. I hope you're doing well wherever you are. I'm glad you came up to us and talked to us. And I personally enjoyed hanging out and talking with you. I don't really have a problem with someone disagreeing with me, thinking cannabis is bad, thinking like I'll have a conversation with that person all day long. I am down with disagreement as long as it doesn't lead to violence and explosive anger, which is kind of where we've gotten to with our political spectrums in the world and, social media and protesting. I remember when we protested weed, it wasn't violent. It was super chill. I look at protesters now protesting all sorts of different shit out there, and I'm like, these guys all seem like maniacs. I guess that's what we looked like when we were protesting. Who's to say? Anyway, shout out to Archive. Good to see you, Fletch. Good to see you, Tim. Welcome, guys. We're just talking about Michigan. You have Michigan partners down there. Is that Franklin Fields? Are you partnered up with Franklin Fields, Fletch?
No,
No,
no.
maybe they just grow some of your flower or something, or maybe they sell your product. Because someone was
Well, a
telling me
lot of
something.
people grow grow my products, that's for sure.
But do you have partners in Michigan?
Yeah, yeah, Pure Options Pro Grow.
Okay, it was Pure Options. That's right.
Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. Very cool. And do you go to Michigan very often?
Yeah. I've been working on some other projects the last couple of years, but yeah, I've spent probably a year and a half there. Split into blocks, doing all, getting everything set up. I've been partners there for 8 years. So,
Good stuff.
yeah, I've been out there a lot, and we're kicking off a big breeding operation out there. So there's going to be a lot of growth in that sector as well.
Hell yeah, dude. And are there ways for other brands to gain some of those genetics? Like, are you looking to, like, if Bubbleman brand wanted to get some archive genetics going, or is that like a possibility? Or do you guys have it vertically integrated and you kind of keep everything else out and just keep it in-house?
Generally, I'm vertically integrated, and then there's kind of two groups of products. There's like the stuff that is exclusive to the brand and the manufacturer, and then there's the things that are available publicly. So it's just a matter of like the right relationship, what the intended goals of it are, the value of the genetic in terms of the marketplace. There's just a lot that goes into what it is, how it's used, and who's going to get it.
Well, I'd love to have a conversation with you off camera one of these days, both for Michigan and Illinois, because Dread Smokes Weed is my grower in Illinois. He's just such a great grower. He just shines with whatever you give him. It's always got to be under 10 weeks because his rooms are maxed 9. So obviously what was it? The Death Star, the Ohio Death Star that Buddy was offering, that was 10 to 12 weeks. So that was a no-go, but yeah, I just got to find some proper genetics, and I just would like to work with people that I'm been friends with for a long time and that I know have, like, the fire. Obviously, I can always just go buy a pack of seeds and give it to a grower, but I always like finding better synergies than that. And you've always got the fire, homie.
Yeah, I mean, it's just popping seeds. I think that's the main name of the game. Been doing that a long time, and it seems to be getting more and more popular. And I think more and more people are figuring out how difficult it is to find good shit.
Absolutely.
I think a lot of people have taken for granted the availability of good genetics, and I think we finally are reaching a point where the industrialization of the industry, coupled with the industrialization of genetic supply, has really narrowed down a lot of what's available in the marketplace.
Sure.
And there's very little diversity. And I think a lot of people are starting to finally see the negative impacts on their business, on their market, all the, even pest pressure, all kinds of things, by not having a diverse genetic portfolio.
Yeah, well, that's what's going to push people to get a diverse genetic portfolio, not having one. The tighter the pendulum always swings both ways.
The problem is a lot of it's gone.
Well,
Right?
I believe
it's like,
that
once everybody, like, okay, so you remember like the Mark Emery days. That was the very first. That was really like you kind of had like Skunkman Sam kind of brought his genetics to Amsterdam. And then you had all the Amsterdam companies that basically took the building blocks and made 9,000 things out of it, but they're all the same basically, right? And then Mark Emery did that again, right? And basically we ended up with, when I first started buying seeds in the early 2000s, it didn't matter where I bought the seeds from, whether it was from Canada or from Amsterdam. It was pretty much all the same shit. It all smelled the same. It all had the same. And that was really why I started my business, was because I realized there was not a massive, but there was a treasure trove of clone-only genetics in America that were not represented in the international genetic marketplace. And so that's why I started collecting clones. And basically we've kind of redone that whole process 20 years later in America with our building blocks. So they did it with Skunk One, NL, and Haze over there, and after 20 years, it basically all becomes one thing. Now we've done that with OG cookies, sherbet, and whatever else in America, and it's all one thing. And then because breeders now just buy a pack of seeds and cross them together, it's even more down the line. There's no one's rehunting parent genetics, no one's going through hundreds of populations, no one's doing any of that stuff really. They're just popping more seeds from the stuff that they already got from someone else, and you just end up with a very narrow pool, a very narrow bottleneck of available traits. And it becomes, it's not that the traits don't exist anymore. It's just as a percentage of the population, they're very hard to find. What may have been 10% of the population before, and you'd find it 1 out of every 10 plants, you're now looking through a population to find 1 out of every 1,000 for this trait that you're looking for, but isn't available in modern genetics due to inbreeding depression, essentially, to put it simply.
Well, imagine how that'll change as genetic markers become more and more prevalent, and as AI can aggregate data, and as we have tens of thousands of people. Like, how did Johnny find the Selena dying? Like, people do come across these like lottery ticket flavor profiles. For me, what we're talking about is flavor profiles. We're talking about volatile organic compounds. Cannabinoids can be bred in and out into different percentages, very simple, but finding the gene synthase for something rare and novel that's actually even not turned on, but just finding it and being able to breed into that. I sit with you because I feel like you're very much on the side of Ryan Lee. Like, the way Ryan Lee describes it is almost apocalyptic, like what we've done to the gene pool in cannabis. But then I can't deny that when I see Edgar from Masonic Seeds and he puts something in my pipe, it's fucking delicious and killer. And this guy's just crossing seeds in his backyard in Humboldt, or in Compton, actually Humboldt, Compton, California. So I feel like, yes, you're not wrong in the sense that like a lot of that stuff is gone or appears to be gone. But I feel like with technology and with knowledge that we will figure out a way. I just know for a fact, like even when you said like everyone's just like buying a couple of seed packs. I mean, the way Chimera put it, his little video of like, you don't just buy the sherbet and the gelato and put them together and get the sherblato. That's not how it works. And I don't know if you've seen that talk, Fletch, but it's fucking awesome. And I think you'd really like it if you haven't seen it, because it's hilariously Ryan. But then on the flip side, I'm like, I still see people putting things in my bowl that are unique. Like, and maybe I don't know. I go to Michigan, I go to Colorado, everywhere I go, someone's got something that's like, holy fucking shit. Now, also, 90% of what you're saying is completely accurate in my reality. Everything tastes the same. It smells the same. It tastes the same. But then there's this like small percentage, like, for instance, Savvy, what did I have of yours in Michigan? What was that?
That's just a Sugar King Chimera 3.
Dude, that was fucking, it was
But
really nice. Very unique flavor, loud.
It's very good, but it falls into kind of the same profile of what Fletch is talking about a very narrowed spectrum.
Sure.
But it's all good. The narrowing is good. It's all narrowing good flavors. It's not that it's bad. It's just that everything is the fucking same everywhere you go.
Well, that's why I love Haze.
That's it.
Haze is just not the same. It's different. And within Haze, there are all these different flavor profiles that you can go from frankincense to perfume to, there's a lot of variety within Haze as well. Maybe there's still more there, Fletch, because people have not bastardized the Hazes as much. Would you think that's accurate?
I think that, I mean, no, not really, at least not with Haze specifically, because if you think about like how many things have been crossed to Haze and you look at the results, it's almost everything in the book. I mean, if you just start with the stuff from Amsterdam, plus, I mean, I've made hundreds of Haze hybrids myself, or Haze descendant hybrids, and there is like unique stuff in there. But just as an example, like I've made a lot of, let's say Amnesia Haze hybrids or whatever it is. Those generally I can just from smell and taste even progeny down the line, I can identify it as being Dutch haze.
Really?
Whereas like as soon as I started working with the like what I call the Hana lemon, which is some seeds I collected in 2004 in Hana, Maui. I don't get even though it's long 14, 15-week flowering haze type plants, because it's not from the actual population that went to Amsterdam. I don't get haze at all. It doesn't smell like amnesia, jack, or any of that. I get all kinds of other landrace sativa,
Exactly.
which are relative smells to haze, but they're not the same. They're different. Just like Colombian and Mexican and all these different, even the isolated varieties from those countries, all have different traits. And there's when you collect something that hasn't hit um a commercial marketplace of seed,
Mm.
the likelihood that you have that same genetic set goes down significantly. Like when you buy shit from a commercially available marketplace, the odds are it's a cross of someone's other shit that other people made, and it's a cross of a couple known plants. When you collect some seeds from somewhere where they don't even keep clones, the diversity that you're going to experience is probably much higher. And I don't want people to misinterpret what I meant by inbreeding depression. Like inbreeding depression doesn't necessarily mean all bad traits. It just means inbred. So, just like Savvy was saying, it's not that it's because it's inbred, it's now worse than it was before. I think overall, the available plants and seeds is better than it used to be, but it's less diverse. So it's better in the sense that there's a narrow pool of the stuff that lots of people tend to like and enjoy flavor, quality, potency wise. But it's really hard to find stuff outside of that spectrum unless you've been
Mm.
preserving it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said.
Yeah.
Well, there's got to be gems out there. I mean, I know I have gems. I have that Mullumbimby Madness from like the 70s in my freezer downstairs. Fridge,
But
actually. Cold fridge.
I think it's kind
I
of
grew
up to
those
the
seeds
top,
20
but
years ago. you
Nice.
know,
Yeah. Did you get
that
it
the
from Paul
Wally's
the
duck
Madman?
foot,
Did you
all
get,
the Wally's duck foot. I mean that
I
the
had that.
Mullumbimby, just the stuff I got from seed, it just would never. I put it at 10 hours of light and it still wouldn't even get anywhere close to finishing.
Did you know the Madman, the Mullum Madman on Overgrow? His name was Paul.
I didn't know him, but I just remember reading the threads. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
like the Wally duck threads through
He
too. It's
he
like,
he
oh man,
sent
look how
me
cool this weed looks, and then you grow it, and you're like,
well, he sent
I
me the
guess this is
weed.
why they grow it in the bush.
He sent me the weed. He sent me the hash. He sent me the seeds. He sent me like photos of like a plant that was 12 feet tall and 18 feet wide. And he was standing in front of it. I was like, dude, no one would have believed it if it came out today. They'd have been like, that's AI, dude. Like that's not a plant.
Yeah.
Can't grow plants that big. Although I do have a picture of Rob Clark under a plant in Vietnam, and I think it's around 24 feet tall. It looks like he's working under a tree, but when you look closely, you're like, huh? It's like your waist, the stalk of the plant. And I guess what
Mhm.
he said was the lady had planted it in her backyard, and she had like a little light on her back door that stayed on all night. So the plant just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. I'll try to find that and send it to you. I think you'd appreciate that shot, Fletch.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I had my friend Shaw at 707 Seeds. I gave him the Malawi Gold clone like 20 years ago, and he grew a big one in his yard. It finished like December 31st, basically.
Jesus.
And that thing was, if he hadn't have trained it, it probably would have been 15 feet tall. But he had trained it out into this big canopy, and it was like probably 12 feet around, 10, 12 feet around.
Ah,
And
that's
like
huge.
8 feet tall. And he had made like a canopy with netting, and kind of weaved it through it. So it was just like a big carpet. It was like a flying carpet of Malawi buds. And I have
Oh
like
my
some
God.
photos that I took. And this was so long ago. I had a 2.5 megapixel
The cyber
digital
shot.
camera, and that was like, awesome. And I have a photo of like morning light with a big praying mantis flew right over my head, right onto the Malawi cola with like the sunrise in the background. It's a pretty good photo.
Dude, that's a pretty good experience. Forget about the
100%.
photo. The fact that you got to experience that experience is
Oh yeah,
that's
it flew right over my head and landed on the bud, and I was like, man, if this isn't a perfect photo opportunity, I don't, I don't know what is.
hell yeah.
Man, that's insane.
Well, I still have faith, man. You know, you got your thing going on. There's some good people out there. I know Jimmy's doing some crazy things working with I think Robin Mojave on that massive like 100,000 or 200,000 planted seeds or something like massive. They're working on like finding IPM resistance, and they're doing a big breeding project, but they're doing it with like hundreds of thousands of plants instead of like 10 seeds or whatever.
Yeah.
As far as the narrowing goes, if we go into the landrace populations and these regions that are kind of inaccessible and getting those things and working them down some pathways, I think that's kind of the fix to what you were talking about before, Fletch, is, with how narrowed we are, especially in the States and in Europe, taking some of those populations where some of us have to take some L's and then pass them off to people that have the ability to grow thousands of seeds, and go through those populations and find some new stuff that's
Yeah.
way
I mean,
behind the
it's a lot of work. When like the reason that everybody just takes seeds and crosses the good ones that you can buy and crosses them together and calls it a new name is because when you take like these new varieties and cross it to this land race or whatever unhybridized variety you have, it's mostly garbage that you're going to get from it. You always hear people, "Oh, you're buying new seeds, and that's why you're getting Hermes." And it's like clearly they've and then their solution is you got to go back to land races. And it's like, dude, you've never grown land race before because
Gonna say
they're
never touched
Cambodian,
one.
Thais, all these things. They can be at 50% or more hermaphrodites in the land race population itself. So then you have to work your way through that as well. And I mean, this isn't like something I'm making up. I mean, even Skunkman Sam was talking about this same problem 50 years ago, right? When
Yep.
he was making and working Haze and Skunk One. The whole purpose, if I remember correctly, was of Skunk One was to make the high THC resin that sifted well for the GW Pharmaceuticals program. Not for it, but like the intention was to create a medicine from the plant. So you make a pure cannabinoid head and then low hermaphrodites, right? Or no hermaphrodites. That was, what I remember Dave saying was that those initial 10,000 hunt populations that they did, those were the main criteria that they were looking for.
Yeah. True.
And we have the stability in these current lines though, and we can take these landrace populations and then breed into them and then open these new lines back up to where it's less work, but still a shit ton of work, but way less work than what they were doing 20 years ago with what you're talking about. Like that's killer work going through populations where you have 50-60% herm populations and then trying to breed that out, because then you're just, I don't know the exponentials of it, like as much as
I still think it's the same odds and work today. There's no, if you go get a landrace population, hybridize it into some modern genetic, whether it's high percentage of Hermes or not, high percentage of high quality or not, it's just up to that hybrid. It's not, there's no way to say because it's landrace or because it's this, that it's going to produce these kinds of results. It's simply making the hybrids and seeing what comes out. What I have found is that when I take an unhybridized population, breed it into modern stuff, it takes a minimum of 2 to 3 generations of selection and hybridization to get something that's even comparable to what you started with or where you're trying to get to. So like the land race unhybridized population crossed with a modern clone, that first generation is almost all garbage. Even the like good plants are just good. They're not great. And then you take that and then hybridize it again with something more modern. And then from that population, you'll start to see plants that may be competitive in the modern marketplace.
Yeah, well said, Fletch. I love your information, dude. It's like you're stepping into Sam's chair, dude. I miss Sam as you've been talking about all of this. I'm like, damn, we lost Sam, bro. Like,
I mean, even right now, like I'm hunting through 50 of one population right now, and I'm smoking through them as I'm doing this.
yeah,
That's
you are, dude. And where are you right now?
I'm in Washington at the moment, but I'm
Holy
gonna be
shit.
out. I'm gonna be out of the Northwest here soon. thankfully out of Washington completely.
Like
In a couple weeks.
forever?
Yeah, I'm done
Dude,
with the Washington.
you are killing me. Well, fuck the Washington market, that's for sure. But the fact that you were like so close to me and I can now start coming to the US, I could like literally drive over the border and come see you, dude.
I mean, you still can. I'll be around, but yeah, I'm not going to do business out here anymore. So,
Yeah, well, that makes sense. Do you do
super.
business in Colorado?
No, I don't.
You should.
I have in the
You
past.
should
I lived there
again.
for a couple years.
You should absolutely do business in Colorado. It's been very good to us.
Archive is definitely represented well in a lot of dispensaries out here, whether you know it or not, sir.
Fucking right. Absolutely they are. What's going on in Colorado, Tim Clark? You do a bunch of breeding too.
Breeding, growing, selecting, chemistry, consulting, all of the above. And I honestly love just listening to Fletch talk. It's one of those things that I don't even feel the necessity to want to interject in most parts because he represents such a large commodity in the market just because of his information and expertise. So, and then leading from Skunkman Sam, it's kind of like his work with CBD and us isolating type threes and those chemotypes specifically for the last 10 years. That's just one thing that it's like, man, I truly too miss that type of an interjection as well. It's one of those things that you just get used to over 12 or 13 years, Marcus, and now we just have what we have. But once again, it's a beautiful Sunday. Colorado's beautiful. Just got done watering a whole bunch of plants.
Dude, beautiful or like the fucking temperature of Mars?
Yesterday was Mars. It was about 95 to 100, give or take. I'm not sure what it is going to be today. Greenhouse plants are going to absolutely hate it, but thank goodness those are temperature controlled. So we've got very, very little to worry about there, assuming that fans don't burn out or, all the above.
Like you could grow insane like exotics, like
oh yeah, in 5B, which is where we are, which is where our implements are at. We could do the vast majority of plants. It's quite interesting. And then outside, stone fruits just rock. I mean, we could do stone fruits, we could do strawberries, we could do all kinds of strawberries. I mean, not just certain varieties. And then from there, we could also take it out and do squashes and any kind of tomato that you want to. So it's like almost any produce variety is viable out here in our region. And we take advantage of it ourselves to where we're growing row crops of vegetables. We do it every year. And ultimately, I love growing food for ourselves. The more that you can grow food for yourselves, I think everybody should do that. I mean,
I'll tell you one thing, it was cannabis that kind of taught me about that. Not saying I'm some huge food growing guy. I'm not at all, but I understand seeds and I understand how to crack them and I understand soil to a degree. And I understand like that certain plants require certain types of soil and certain amounts of water. And it's incredible to grow food. And I'm always envious or if really inspired, but also, envious in the sense of when I go to people's farms and they've got like killer, just private gardens next to their house that are just, half an acre or a quarter of an acre. And I'm like, oh my God, like you have a grocery store growing next to your house. It's awesome.
That's honestly what it's about. So much as I'm not sure, aside from sharing with our neighbors and just giving it away to a food pantry, the point really should be that we need to grow as much food as we possibly can. Essentially, not so much that we have to worry about the control aspect of it, but more just because it's right there. It's as close and local and native as you can possibly get. And realistically, a vine ripened tomato is much more delicious than any grocery store tomato that you can possibly find, in my opinion.
Wow, it's like comparing styrofoam to an actual tomato.
Absolutely.
There's no flavor. What's going on there? Hey, all these like cultivars, this monocropping and farming on this hugely level seems to lead you to a lack of flavor instead of an abundance of flavor. I'm down with abundant flavor farming techniques. That's what I'm going to coin them. Abundant flavor farming techniques. Bring me the flavors.
Well, I mean, that's basically what's happening with your weed is the grocery store. Ooh. Right? The industrialization of agriculture is Walmart produce. That's what's happening to your weed right now by allowing these large corporations and mega grows to own the marketplace, essentially.
But do you think that, like, aren't they an essential to feed the market that wants that lower quality, like for instance, I was talking to these terpene guys in Michigan, and I'm just like, dude, I'm not hitting that. I hate that shit. That's like, what did I say, Savvy?
They're pretty much our antichrist,
That's
is what
exactly what I said to him. Did you see his face when I said that?
pretty
But
funny.
I do get it, because people, for whatever reason, have blown out their olfactories. They just have these deadened senses. Maybe it's the fact that people are consuming deadeners on the regular, like things that just deaden you, like alcohol or pharmaceutical drugs, or like a bunch of other shitty things that are out there that are, not ideal for you. People don't smell or taste anything, but you should see how excited they get when they hit a Disty vape pen with pineapple flavoring in it. And they're like, oh, this one's pineapple. Like, they can decipher the difference in the flavor. They're excited about it.
Their eyes just light up. Everybody gets all excited.
And
Yes.
and I get it. I mean, if I couldn't taste anything myself, because I've smoked hash with people where I'm like, what do you, or hey, smell this. What does it smell like? And they'll be like, it smells like marijuana. You know what I mean? They have no relationship with it. They have no ability to decipher the subtle nuances and the flavor profiles. They're not smelling the front end, the middle, and the back end. They're just like smelling this one kind of, and it's just this dead sort of thing. And the only reason I say this, Fletch, is because it seems like in everything that we do as humans, from like literally the clothing we wear, the homes we live in, the cars we drive, the lifestyles we live, the food we consume, the alcohol beverages we consume, if you go to the gas station, like, it doesn't seem to be full of high-end things. And I'm not sure if that's because, people aren't willing to pay for them, or because people just love shit. Like, there's this, I feel like that these big companies exist because people like almost want them to exist the same way they exist for buying their gas and everything else. Because, and when you say, it's happening to your weed right now, I can say, well, it's not happening to mine, because I'm smoking weed grown by people like you and bred by people
Yeah,
like,
but I mean, that's,
it's
we in this
95% of it.
conversation can all say that, but that's not,
Yeah,
so can the people that shop at a farmer's market and have a
100%.
backyard farm.
Yes.
That's great, but that's not good for the broader market, the existence of the plant, the diversity available, the nutrition for the customer, the value of the product, or any
You're
of that
not
other
wrong.
stuff. I mean, the while I agree with what you're saying, that you think that people want what you're talking about, it's really more of a result of excess efficiency in the marketplace, right? So essentially, like when we industrialize agriculture, it made corn, you can feed the amount of people in this country 10 times over with the amount of corn that we grow.
That's right.
It's so much that the government has to subsidize corn farming.
Mm-hmm.
And then, not to mention, we put 10% ethanol fuel in all of your gas tanks so that they can grow more corn.
More corn.
That's how
Corn's
good they are
everything.
at growing
Absolutely.
corn,
Corn's
right?
everything.
And so, and whether it's soybeans or whatever other produce, if it's an industrial agricultural commodity, then the government's going to get involved in managing its supply and demand, simply because
Sure.
it'll collapse itself without it, and then you
Well,
end up with starving people, actually.
They
And
have
then,
been from the beginning, really. And when you think about the
well, it's
history of
not.
what,
It's only the last 100 years. This didn't exist
that's
prior to
that's right.
1900.
And do you
Yeah.
know when it was created? Because it was Hitler who hired Haber and Bosch to create
No, it
synthetic
wasn't. It
nitrates.
was it was when the tractor was invented, is what
Yeah,
caused it.
but synthetic nitrates changed everything a lot more than the tractor, dude. There's only so many
No, it didn't.
nitrates in soil.
Literally, the labor change from 1890 to 1930
Yeah.
from farms to, and that was like, yes, that made growing in more places around the world
Yes.
possible. But that's not where industrial agriculture found its efficiency. It found it with industrialization of the labor.
I,
And that's why cities are so big today, is because everybody could stop living on the farm now. And that's like why a lot of people, you'll see like billionaires, what do they end up doing? Like Oprah. They just buy a farm because it's fulfilling. Why? Because the vast majority of the population prior to 1900 lived and worked on a farm. That was part of our entire history, was growing and consuming your local food and local produce. We had no refrigeration. So once you got trains, refrigeration, and tractors, that's what changed the entire food and commoditized the entire industry. And we're seeing it with cannabis right now as well. And essentially, like, when you have, there's only two things that solve this problem, and it's either subsidies from the government or farmers unions that control supply. So, cannabis is never going to get subsidies. So the only thing that would work would be farmers unions. And if not, then every advancement that we have in yield, pest resistance, yield per acre of raw THC, it's just going to be another leg down for the industry, generally speaking.
Well, I will tell you this. The only thing that is given credit for the 4 billion extra people that are alive on the planet today are synthetic nitrates. We have close to 4 billion people who would not be alive today if it weren't for synthetic nitrates. So it had a massive, massive effect on global industrial farming.
But that actually creates more demand, not oversupply. So like the industrialization of agriculture is so efficient that even with nitrate and another 4 billion people worth of demand on food, we still can grow too much.
Yeah, well, of course. We're
So
very
it's like,
efficient.
the nitrate actually helped the oversupply problem in that it created more demand with more people being able to live. But
Yeah,
it's still,
exactly.
it still doesn't solve the labor problem, which is that nobody needs to work on the farm anymore. If you go drive through Central California, you can go see, or anywhere in the country, and you can go see thousands of acres being farmed and not a single person out there doing anything. You might see an
Jesus.
airplane fly over doing pesticides and one or two guys in a tractor or on a quad checking valves, and that's it.
So we need to train our robots in hugel culture. Is that what you're saying, Fletch?
I
Absolutely.
mean, yeah, that wouldn't be a problem. I mean,
Absolutely.
anything that promotes better quality and less overproduction is going to be better for the consumer and better for the producer overall. It's just
Absolutely.
how it works.
But how do
Yeah,
you regulate production when everyone wants this free like market? They just
you
want to
give out as
produce.
many licenses as you want, but you just cap square footage of production. It's
Right.
just like how farmers unions do it. They say,
Mhm.
okay, you can grow 20 acres. I don't care that you own 1,000 acres. You can only grow 20 acres or you'll collapse the industry around all of us.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys just saw that guy that gave away all his peaches for free in California. Now
Yeah.
the
I
federal
was,
government's
yep.
about to spend, or maybe it was the state government, but they're going to spend millions of dollars to rip trees out of the ground down there.
Jesus
They're not
Christ.
doing that for any reason other than to protect the value of the crop. Otherwise, the whole industry collapses and then you get no peaches at all. So,
Right.
which would you rather have? Cap production and make a vital
My
market
worry about
for
capital
growers, or allow overproduction and watch a thing implode?
my worry about cap production is people's ability to execute it. The people who are in charge are these people. The people who generally become in charge and create the rules seem to be psychotic or sociopath. Just psychos. Like empathetic people don't seem to want to. You need very intelligent people to create these regulations, and then to create a way that makes sure people follow them, and that it doesn't create some massive black market where people will just overproduce again and offset and undermine that market through not following the rules.
Well,
And
I mean, it's like,
unfortunately,
go
sorry,
ahead.
go ahead. I was
Go
going to
ahead,
say,
Deb.
unfortunately, what you'd come into in something like Colorado's circumstance with legislation is we can't have any type of a interest in the industry that we would be regulating in. So if our like-minded group here were wanted to be put onto a regulatory panel, we could have absolutely no ties to the industry at all, of which all of our running businesses that we've got going now, we just, I guess, would dissolve or step away. And that would be the existence that we would have to share just to be able to dictate a policy. Now, does that overall expanse relegate to the company, or does that relegate more to the industry that it's working for, or does it relegate to the people that it needs to serve? Because realistically, at the end of the day, we as a business, we're already doing pretty much 80 to 90% of that ourselves in self-regulation, unfortunately. So when everybody wants to say that we're an unregulated product, when everybody wants to say that we are now an emerging medical market, I'm going to try and stay away from a lot of the political aspects of this. But we get to the point to where now this medicine, this product, this agricultural commodity shares so many different labels that it's hard for anybody other than somebody that sits on a panel to be able to discern the difference, to be able to utilize and have the utility to share it or give it or sell it or export it or do other things with it or derivize it in this case, even as a Schedule 3 product. So at the end of the day, it's really, really tough to want to ascribe to the ideas that we need to limit things. But at the end of the day, too, we also want to have an abundance for ourselves and for our local communities. So outside of that, it's really tough to try and apply local economics and local dynamics to national policy, national scales, especially when we come to the cannabis industry, let alone our food industry, which has already trumped us in scale.
You know what? It's funny because I'm just looking at Hawaii Sustainable, right? And he's writing a little message to Fletch in the thing there, but it reminded me of when medical, even this is like activists and medical patients here in Canada. When that came down, people could not get a big enough license. Everyone wanted more. It was like, oh, I got a 200 plant. Oh yeah, I got a 500 plant. Really? I got a 1200. It's like, you got a 1200 plant medical license? No one could get enough. It was like we were so happy that we were protected for like 5 minutes. And then we were like, let's get the biggest license we can possibly get. I think I have a 99 plant license. I can't remember what it is, 20 grams a day or something. And I've never grown 99 plants ever. I have that license. I have like 6 or 7 plants on my deck right now. That's usually where I lie. I come in around between 6 and 20. But I'll tell you, even in our own community with the people who are like, apparently all about the patients, they couldn't get enough plants. And I didn't feel that it was always, because they were trying to grow great cannabis for medical patients. There's this whole aspect of cannabis that we came from the prohibition of cannabis, where you could pay for your entire life. You could pay for your mortgage and your car payments, and you could pay off student loans, and you could like go on a trip, and you could remove yourself almost from the slavery that is the wage slave working the job. At least that was my experience in the early 90s when I sort of came across cannabis and didn't really have too much of a spiritual outlook on it and didn't really have much of an understanding of its medical efficacy. I just mostly liked getting stoned. Very much like, Skunkman Sam, aka Dave Watson, very, very similar. And that was one of the things we laughed about when we first met each other. He would always say it. I'm sure you guys remember. Oh, I fought for people to get like high, like not just for medical and not just for, he's like, I didn't care who made the money, but I was fighting for people to be able to use this plant for whatever goddamn reason they want to. We tend to, as humans, get into like, oh, let's classify the plant use. Obviously, if you're sick and dying, then you have the highest level of like plant use. We'll give the most respect to that because it's patients. And then if you're, and then basically getting high was like at the bottom. And Skunkman Sam wasn't with that. He said it was all equal. Like we need it all, everyone. And I see, the importance that why should you have to get sick to use cannabis to increase your daily life or to prevent particular diseases that may arise that you will then use cannabis to fight. Just use cannabis.
Absolutely. I personally can even see it as a food ingredient. It's naturally a food in itself. Yeah, there's many cultures across Europe that have utilized it in raw preparation as well in America for long time. So discontinuing that doesn't necessarily harbor the same feeling that it does at the end of the day for where we take it personally out of our own garden. We should be able to juice it. We should be able to have it as much as we want in abundance. And at the end of the day, I'm also not going to be the guy that wants to tell everybody that you got too much, because let it go to waste. Give it to your animals. CBD, farms, hemp, all of that, they would use it. I mean, a happy animal goes to butcher the same way with cannabinoids in its system as it does without them.
Right.
I'm sure the bacon probably tastes better every pig that's killed that's had a hemp plant given to it. More than likely. I've had many of our farmers tell me that they absolutely love it. was like, okay, I'm not going to argue with you guys.
Yeah, well, it's true. We do have an overabundance. We learned it here in Canada when people were just like having like millions of grams of cannabis in their vault. And it was just like, oh my God. Yeah, you could feed it to the animals, I guess. Give them the cannabinoids.
Well, I mean that industry that you're talking about where it was home farmers and home growers. I mean that's what production caps creates. And you would
Mm.
think that like the government would be interested in preserving that previous marketplace because I'll just give some quick numbers here. Like in Washington, the medical market, when it was a medical scene here, was about $2 billion a year. It's now 800 million. So if the government's interest is in getting tax money, you would think that they'd want to have the product worth a lot, which is why, or worth more, should I say, instead of being $2 a gram. And here's the other thing: cheap weed makes it available to young people. So now this government has way more costs associated with young people's abuse and all this stuff, this is why the government regulates alcohol the way they do too. I mean,
Well,
I'm
that's
not
working out really well.
yeah, I'm not pro regulation in general because government and intelligence is like an oxymoron. It shit doesn't exist,
That's what I'm
right?
saying.
So giving them any control doesn't help anything. But the point that I'm making is that if they are going to control it, the way that they could do it to make it to make the system work in a manner that produces lots of taxes, has a low social negative incomes and all these other things is to prevent overproduction. I mean, that's how you get rid of black market growers. I mean, I think the funniest thing about this whole like legalization, like in Washington, is the majority of the big growers that are legal now are all illegal because they all backdoor weed. So all you've done is take a bunch of small growers that grow illegal weed and turn it into one big grow that sells a ton of illegal weed. and but what you did was get rid of all the jobs and all the tax revenue that came in on that because now they're selling $500 pounds out the back door and untaxed. So the state's not getting anything. The kids are getting their hands on cheap weed. The shit's getting exported everywhere, and the quality's terrible. And there's no space in the market for actual good growers with, let's say, 10 lights to make any money. And so you end up with this just landscape of just trash, basically. Um, and there's a few people that are fighting to keep quality and stuff like that alive in those type of markets, but they're all, exhausted at this point. It's just an exhausting, grueling battle to try to beat that reality. And so the
It's
real
exhausting to
solution,
try and keep type threes on the shelf, man. Absolutely.
right? So it's just one of those things where what I'd actually like to see is the market get worse instead of better because that's the only way we're actually going to see the back end of. And you've seen some of this in Canada as well. Is um, the majority of the big operations have failed, and the few that are left are surviving on export only.
No, that's not true.
I'm talking
There
about the mega ones, right? Tilray,
well,
all that.
yeah, I mean, here's the thing. The Canadian industry, these companies never came here for Canada. They came here for global positioning. And because we were the first G7 country to like federally legalize cannabis, they were always preparing for export. But we do have a few monster companies in Canada that actually just feed Canada and don't do any export whatsoever.
Right. That's not what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. But what are you talking about?
I'm just talking about
Like,
the majority of the big companies that came there and grew so much that they were going to export it.
sure.
It didn't work out for them. It only ends up being one after you have the massive overproduction that you have companies that know what they're doing, that figure out how to get market share and are like what you're saying.
Yeah.
They've they may be really big, but it's because of local demand, not some demand that doesn't exist yet that they're going to grow for.
Yeah, well, there is an enormous amount of demand existing right now in about 27 or 28 countries that are also federally legal that Canada can currently export to, obviously including the UK, Germany, Switzerland. countries like Portugal and Malta and Macedonia, and then a ton of others, New Zealand, Australia. There's 27 or 28 of them. I think you can hit it up on Google or whatever, ChatGPT, and find the list of those countries. I think it's definitely a substantial thing that Canada has going for it right now for the small group of people that are doing it. And I think that obviously those countries will all create their own infrastructures like countries do. But depending on how easy you can make it to just be able to buy the product and have it, like in Canada, you literally take the product to like the Swiss Air, British Airways, and just it goes right on the plane and flies right into the country with the same way anything else would fly into the country. And it's kind of mind-blowing. There's not as many people doing it here, and the people that do it don't generally go on Instagram and brag about it and talk about it. So it's kind of like a part of the cannabis industry that's happening, but not a ton of people are actively talking about it.
Well, they're talking about it. Everybody's just trying to figure out how to get in on it without having to go to Canada to do business.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
is
Well,
what they're
trust me.
doing. Thailand, Colombia, Schedule 3 in America. That's the whole point. I mean, Schedule 3 comes online in America and they actually permit medical export from the United States. I mean, it's going to be a flood, an
Oh yeah. Well,
absolute
and I'll
flood.
tell you, so the companies that are prepared for what you're talking about right now, that are all positioned in the US, big brands and big companies, are up here doing export with their
Yeah.
genetics grown in Canada, set to the bar that they want, and then they're exporting them. I just started an export company called Global Hash Collective, and we sell hash to a bunch of different countries. My partners have been exporting for almost 5 years. So it's easy, like you said, the floodgates. Well, it's like, okay, you want to sell legal GMP cannabis to Germany? Show me your 2-year shelf stability test. Oh, you don't have one? Well, that's okay. You'll get one in 2 years. And so there are all of these
You're
things.
underestimating Americans' ability to forge documents.
Well, you're underestimating the staunch insanity of federal regulatory framework, which is like, don't get me wrong, that's
They just
people are
pay. They
trying to do
just
it.
pay. True Leave's
Yeah.
gonna pay. GTI is gonna pay. They're
Well,
all gonna pay.
what they'll do is they'll just
Glass House is going to pay.
they'll use the people's 2-year stability tests that they already have it. That's what they do. That's what
That's what
they're
I'm
currently
saying.
doing. And
That's what
so
I'm saying. It's like
when you have that,
regulations are
then
just
you're
meant to
like,
be jumped
woohoo.
over.
You know what I
You
mean?
know?
Yeah. It directs people. Canadians all have that, is what I'm saying. All the companies that do export here, we all have the 2-year and the 1 year and the 6 month and all the
Right.
stability tests. So it's like, where do you think they're going to go when they need to do that? They're going to go to the people who have those stability tests.
A 1 year stability test on weed just sounds like a terrible
It's not
thing.
always on weed. It could be on a
No,
it
I
could
know.
be on a
I'm just
vape
saying.
pen.
I'm just
Yeah,
saying. If you're
dude.
trying to tell
Trust
me I
me.
should be buying year-old weed, you've already lost the plot from the beginning. If that's what the business is, it's like if I mean, I don't shop at rec stores, but if you have to buy year-old weed at a rec store, it's just like it's it's year-old weed. It's like might as well buy a year-old steak. It's been sitting on the counter.
Trust me, dude. I'm with you. And I'm definitely not saying America is going to be left behind. What I'm saying is the majority of these companies in Canada are American. All the brands, they're
Oh
already,
yeah, yeah,
the Americans are already doing this. People are missing my point
yeah.
completely. These companies are already positioned. In fact, they've been doing it for almost 5 years.
Well, they're
And
they're doing it in Canada now, but their
correct.
goal is to move that business wherever it's going to be the
100%.
cheapest to operate when the
100%.
when export laws change. So,
India.
right, exactly.
Boom.
I mean, that's why Thailand has really popped off in the medical export market is because the
Yep.
cost of operation is much cheaper there. So,
Yep.
um, yeah, I think it's going to be interesting in the next. I think a lot of people. It's such a small window that we look at in the weed business, but think how different the weed business was 10 years ago from today. And so 10 years from now, it's like, who knows what it's going to look like exactly. It might be all vape pens and that's it.
You could get $30,000 for a kilo of CBD isolate 10 years ago, give or take.
Exactly. So The metrics change quickly in this market, and I think the most important thing from a business perspective is like what you said, Marcus, where um emerging as a local supplier, right? If you've got a local consumer in your state or your country or whatever that likes your products and they buy it every week, that's actually what the at least recreational the goal should be, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I think the beauty of the cannabis industry and community is that you can steer it in any direction that you want. And what I've learned from kind of when I was doing it in the beginning, we're a lot of us are all very, very similar in our visions that we want everyone to do it kind of the way we want to do it, which is what I was with Bubble Hash. I wanted everyone to have the best. I thought it was the most important thing. I thought, I was like, you're smoking joints? Like, why would you do that? And eventually I grew out of my own sort of immaturity that, like, you know what, the value of cannabis is all the pathways, not yours or yours or yours or yours. And so I just pray that while this whole nightmare is happening over here, just like in beer and other industries, there are other people that'll be like, you know what, I'm just going to have my little farm. I'm going to build my little brand. I'm going to like feed the people around, or whatever it is your vision is. I love that cannabis has so many of those. There's a lot of us still that have been involved in this for a very long time. I mean, I saw someone posting the other day. I can't remember if it was Jen oh no, I think it was Jair from Gavita, from Dutch Horticultural Lighting. He was talking about how the people who have been carrying this through prohibition for the last like 40 years, they deserve to be a part of this. This is our industry. And I kind of was like trying to remind them about, like, yeah, like if you think prohibition started 40 or 50 years ago and you think we're the group that does, like, this has been going on for a very, very, very long time. To me, I never felt entitled to be that I needed to be given anything when it came to being involved in the cannabis industry. I just created it for myself. I just was like, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to focus on. This is the work that I myself am going to do. And I find it strange when people find themselves on the outside of cannabis for whatever reason and kind of blame this invisible entity. It's like, you took our jobs. Like, what do you mean? I didn't take your job. Like, you gave up, like I know a lot of people who have given up, and I'm not, to me, I've said this for a long, long time. I can only lose if I give up. Like, if I give up, then I lose. But if I don't give up, it doesn't matter where I am. Like, if I'm on a low or a high, as long as I just don't give up, I won't lose. That's always been my sort of motto.
Well, I think being flexible is the key in this industry.
Holy shit.
Knowing when to hold them, when to fold them, when to change lanes. That's it's more like being in traffic on the freeway, right? You're better off being defensive than you are being offensive in most circumstances. And yeah, I think there is people that are going to make it. I think it's there has to be. It's just a matter of what do those businesses look like? Because there's the business that you want to run, and then there's the business that the market demands of you.
They are definitely, and that is a massive pressure that can bend you out of shape in a very, very quick way.
Well, I think we were kind of talking about it the other day a little bit about how we're in these kind of echo chambers too, as producers, that where we all want these high-end products. And we think that's what everyone wants, but we forget sometimes that we're in this niche of this niche of this niche when it comes to cannabis, especially us when it comes to hash and these other high-end flowers and stuff. And we want everyone to have access to that, but that's not what the whole part of the market. It's kind of what you set me straight on the other day a little bit, is, with the whole Rolls-Royce conversation.
Well, and I think where Fletch is coming in too is it's not like he's saying everyone has to have the best. It kind of goes back to what I was talking about with my brand and kind of why I do the lower grades of hash. I want to create the best versions of those. Not everything has to be a Cannabis Cup Legends of Hash winning 97% 14 terp. For those that want it, amazing. And for the people like Fletch and others who do that work, like I'm always going to appreciate it, guaranteed. But there's people who want a 10% or a 12%. And what we're saying is it doesn't have to be swag. You could, and it doesn't have to be overproduced. Maybe there's a world where there's big companies that still produce, their lower grade flower, but they're doing it to the best ability. They're getting the plant to it's still beautiful cannabis. Do you know what I mean? It's not all irradiated brown swag that like got, even after it irradiated, it gained microbials. Maybe it's got a pesticide. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't all have to be what inevitably is when big companies come on board and CFOs start making the rules that kind of the growers should be making. It also doesn't help that the cannabis industry comes from the most expensive cost to grow anything. If it cost what we pay to grow cannabis or have over the last 30 years to grow anything else, nothing would be grown because you'd have to sell it for like $600 a pound for you to break even. Now people have figured out how to lower that cost, but we've always been in this prohibition inflated price on even what it costs us to grow cannabis. So what inevitably happens is you get a CFO involved and he's like, well, look, we only have a certain amount of money. And they call that the runway. How long's the runway before the plane needs to take off? Well, that's your money. How long that runway is, that's your money. And the CFO, at least if he's smart, he's going to try and create a safe environment so that everyone doesn't lose their jobs. Well, that is a slippery slope because what'll happen is he'll start cutting costs and doing stupid shit and getting the wrong lights and hiring the wrong people and just doing a bunch of stuff that inevitably leads to shitty, swaggy, irradiated bunk flour that's, sold from here to Timbuktu.
But as long as they can sell it cheap enough, then they'll stay in business. And I think maybe what I was saying was a little bit misinterpreted. Is here's essentially what I'm saying is that when you put a production cap, not based on plant counts mean nothing. It's square footage, right? So when you put a production cap on square footage, the demand is, let's say, 100,000 square feet of production a year to have a healthy marketplace for the consumer and the producer. Let's just say that's what it is. Would you rather have two companies with 50,000 square foot licenses each doing exactly what you were just talking about, Marcus, cutting costs, making everything cheap, industrializing the process, etc.? Or would you rather have 100 people with 1,000 square feet each servicing different parts of the market, chasing each other with products and quality, and at the end of the day, there's way more jobs when in 1,000 businesses or 100 businesses with 1,000 square feet each, or whatever the math is. So really my point is that, like, when you have all these small growers, let's say 10,000 small growers that are coming from the black market into the rec industry, if you want them all to stay legal growers and not end up in the black market again or out of business completely, you have to cap the square footage so that they can all actually stay in business. Right. And so it's, really what I'm saying is I'd like to see 5,000 growers in a state, not 100, which is what we're seeing these days, right? Yeah. 5,000 small grows is better at supplying a more diverse range of products, better quality, provides more jobs, and there's an actual culture and industry versus a couple giant Nabisco factories that people clock in and clock out at.
Do you think that we'll get there? I mean, do you think that there's not 1,000 small grows, right? Like I'd say in Canada.
No, there definitely isn't. We can look at it. Like in Washington, I think I'd have to look at it again because I look at numbers from everywhere. But originally there was like 5,000 or 3,000 to 5,000 people that applied in Washington.
Okay. Interesting.
Of which I had a license and then gave up because they fucked the market up here with their tax structure. But and then out of those, I think there was like 2,000 that end up getting licensed and operating. And it's been going down every year since. And it was like 800 licenses that are still active, or 500 to 800, but there's only like 100 or 200 of them that are posting any revenue at all, right? So there's like, out of 2,000 or 3,000, let's say on the low end, there's only 200 that are left that are even posting any revenue at all.
Right. Yeah, well,
like
Washington is a
and the
brutal,
amount
rough
of
market.
companies with like meaningful revenue,
Yeah.
it's like even less, because a lot of
We
these companies, they have revenue, but it's like 50 grand a year or something. It's like,
what's the
okay, that's just a
population of
placeholder.
what's the population of Washington?
It's like 7 million people. It's a big
Okay.
state. And
So
it's one of
our
the most well-paid states in the country, most educated. You would think that the market should be robust here, but it's not, because the state is taxing too much, which makes it so no one wants to grow quality. And then they made legal really big grows to the size and quantity that I think there's maybe like 10 big grows in the state that produce the vast majority of the product. And
and
that's
how
it.
many craft?
Maybe like 100 at
100.
most. Yeah.
Crazy. So we have
And then there's
500
like
right
maybe a
now.
hundred more that are like barely operating.
We have 500 micro cultivation licenses across Canada, but we also have the ability to grow
Well, that's
recreationally
that's
across
not very
Canada.
many for 35 million people,
No,
you
well, but
know?
most of them are in British Columbia,
I mean, how many
Alberta,
how many
Ontario, and
micro
Quebec.
cultivations were there before legalization? 50,000 probably.
Well, how many were there before? Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well,
Right?
how many
My point
were
is, I would love to see people be able to make money with a 10 lighter at their house and sell it into the marketplace.
and they
That's what
used
I
to.
wanted to see
They
with
they they
legalization.
they used to. And what happened was before we even legalized, and also, this is what happened in Canada. It wasn't big companies that did it. It was the BC Compassion Club. The BC
Right, right.
Compassion Club started selling weed, and they'd have like 40 or 50 pounds, 25 different cultivars available, hashes, edibles. This was the 90s, and no one had ever seen anything like it. And they inevitably put so many mom and pop people out of business that were growing weed to pay mortgage helpers and cars and all of those little things that we got into weed, and it was kind of a part of it. The first part of the undermining of that industry was the
Was
Compassion Club.
medical.
Oh,
Yeah, I
fucking
agree.
rights, dude.
I was
It was
never pro
crazy.
medical thing. I'm
It
gonna
was
be honest.
crazy how it happened. It utterly like so many people I knew were like, yeah, just why would I grow weed when it's like you can just go to the Compassion Club and buy, and
I mean,
they were doing big business. Like I don't know if it was like 8 or 9 or $10 million a year, but it was a lot.
Harborside did the same thing in California, and you can watch
Exactly.
you can watch what's his name that started it talk about it himself. It's like,
Yep.
it's not like anything I'm saying is really my opinion. This is just
No.
the kind of fact of how things
Perspective.
have happened.
It's
Yeah.
your perspective.
Well, it's
Sure.
it's like this is just how things have happened,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
What
that's the
what the
thing.
so
So when
what
things,
my proposed solution is my opinion, but the
yeah,
reality is that overproduction has created the market that we're looking at.
sure. Yeah. It almost seems like it couldn't have happened any other way because it didn't.
Say it again.
I said it almost seems like it couldn't have happened any other way because it didn't.
Right.
It happened the
Yeah.
way it happened. Like I don't know if there was some magical conspirators
No,
pulling
there
the puppet
wasn't.
strings or if
No,
humans
it's
are just
everybody
fucking
chasing
total
fast money.
idiots.
I talked to billionaires and I told them that this was going to happen to their business, and they didn't listen to me, and they blew a ton of money and didn't and are never going to see it again, because they didn't
Wow.
understand that industrializing this business was actually going to collapse the very businesses that they were investing into.
Yeah. Well, the beauty about being a billionaire is you make all that money back on something called interest on your money, and you just make it back in like 8 days or something, even if it's a
Well,
hundred million dollars.
when you're a billionaire, you can borrow money at like 0%, basically.
Exactly.
So, you could spend it willy-nilly and it's really not yours, I guess.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I'm definitely not gonna be a billionaire in this lifetime. I'm happy to live the life I'm living in British Columbia and be able to kind of, I'm still one of those people that's super stoked to be a part of the cannabis industry. I see a lot of it that I don't like, but I like coming back from Michigan. Like, dude, the Michigan market is so mature in the hash world of Michigan. It's such a mature place. Like people know what quality is. I see a lot of different things. Yeah, I enjoy the community there. And definitely we didn't really talk too much about it, but dude, one of the funnest days I've had in a very long time was playing golf with Savvy uh on some mushrooms and some dabs and some edibles. I think that was one of the funnest days I've had in about 5 or 10 years, dude.
Yeah, it was a very good day. I enjoyed myself.
It was
The
so.
market is very mature here. That's why I moved here.
And you
Uh,
came from Florida, eh?
yeah, from Florida. And I came with a larger company, Fletch, like, and that the reason I left that company is exactly for what you're talking about, is that they I processed most of the solventless hash for a larger company in Florida, and then I moved up here with that company so I could start my own brand. But they have problems because they can't write off anything, right? Like you can't write off loss. You can't operate a business that way, right? So, and instead of cutting costs and retrofitting and doing things like what Tim was talking about, like what we do on smaller scale here with culture mounds and all these things are not scalable with most corporations because they have no idea how to do them properly, and they cause way more microbial damage than they do any kind of good. So like you can do them, but like no one does, but they use what you were talking about before, Marcus, with the rads. These things are insane, and that's why I left the company to go do my own part. And like, but that the market here is so great because it allows us to do that. Like it's harder, but
Dude, they
it's
just slapped Michigan with a 24% tax on top of all the other tax. Like, I was just like, oh my
but it's
God.
going to do to the market what it needs to be done, is what Fletch was saying before. It's going to put people out of business that deserve to
Oof.
be put out of business. Like these people that are already on thin margins and they're doing harm to our community, they're going to get put out of business. And the people that are supposed to be here are going to last because they're doing the right things. And like that's why I love that ATS that we saw the other day, because it's going to allow on the fresh frozen side and the dry sift side people to create a really, really fine product on the low end, like what you were talking about with supplementing things to meet your market demand. If you need a 30% product, you don't have to cut it down with CBD, which is affecting the overall high and the viability of what the person is ingesting, where you can cut it down with a lower grade hash that has a little bit more, wax in it to meet your demand rather than cutting the product with another isolate. Like really, really cool to see that kind of stuff emerging in our industry. And I'm new to this commercial side, man. I'm really small. I worked commercial for someone else with the Whistler and stuff. But when I get up and I see the dirty side of it, it scares me. And that's why I got away from the larger corporation side, because it's there, man. It was there in Florida on a smaller scale because it's a medical market. It's more highly regulated. But I was at one of the larger MSOs there in Florida and here in Michigan. And I won't even give them the justice of saying their name because I don't.
I'll say their name. No, I'm just joking.
Yeah, I don't think they deserve to be in the market. But it's the problem is what you were saying, like they don't care and they just want to make as much money as they can and make as much profit as they can as fast as possible. And it's at the detriment in these states. Because I tried to be a whistleblower. I called MDARD here in Michigan when I was like, there's no way this is fucking legal. Like what they're doing, because they irradiate everything that goes out. It doesn't matter. They just irradiate everything before it goes to testing so it will pass. No, and they know there's mold on it. They'll irradiate it and then send it to testing so it passes, and then they don't have to label it as remediated. Then they can still sell it as a premium product. They knowingly know there's dead mold spores on what they're selling to their consumers. It's literally doing harm. Like it doesn't matter if the spores are dead. Like they're still harmful. Like, and as soon as I found out that was a thing, I was like, no, I can't do this. Now, like I'm
Bong
gone.
rip, mother lubbers.
But
Reppin' Max.
hell yeah.
Fucking reppin', dually reppin' Max. I saw your piece in your hand. I was like, yeah, he's definitely got the max. I like that we rep Max, Fletch.
No better pipe. It's just like the feel and the weight and the sturdiness. It's just no one else makes glass like that.
It's true. He's a big dude, He's able to hold bigger pieces on the punny and like, spin it. And this is so thick. And so I've had this pipe for, fuck.
Over 20 for sure.
It's way over 20, dude. Like
Yeah.
23 or 24.
Yeah.
With the hemp wick too, the only way.
The mega roll.
I did one of these one time where I just went like this and then I put it right next to my desk And then I guess the wind blew it and lit it up again. Or maybe I just didn't put it out as much as I thought I did. Anyway, the entrance to my office is right there. So there's like a door right there. This is sitting right on my little shelf. And I'm just typing away. And my wife comes in and she's like, "What is your desk on fire?" And I look, and this fucking thing has like a 2 foot, now an 18-inch flame coming off the top of it. It was it really made me be aware of the danger. Like, man, I'll tell you, the torch is dangerous, the fucking hot nail is dangerous, and the beeline getting lit and left behind. Shout out to the folks at Beeline.
Hey, you're gonna be a vape head now.
Yeah, right. I don't think so. Yeah, I'm only gonna buy Jeter.
It's for safety, bro.
I'm only gonna buy Jeter.
Yeah, I'm Jeters only.
Dude, it's so good, bro. If you had the pineapple, cherry, guava, mango yet?
I have not.
No, me neither. And I will not. Some guy tried to get me to fucking hit pickle distillate. Was it a pickle distillate pen? Is that what he wanted me to hit?
A bunch of different crazy shit. They said, yeah.
You got to try this pickle one. And I'm like, I don't, and I won't.
They're 8% terps. It just caustic to your entire system. Like you have some of this, he's pickled dick.
When the whole terp testing came out, I used to always make this joke. They'd be like, "Dude, it's 5% terps." I'm like, "Yeah, 5% ass terps." It's like this shit sucks, you know. It's like just because it has a high percentage doesn't mean it's good ones, right?
No, and it's lacking all the other things that kind of give it the bouquet. Like I've very rarely smelt a terp and been like, "Oh, it smells just like." It's like no.
Yeah, like that's beta caryophyllene I'm smelling there. That's exactly what that is.
That is fucking hilarious. Wow, that was nice to hit a bowl of bubble. I don't know when the last time I smoked a bowl of melt on Hash Church was. That was like nostalgic for me, funny enough.
Off the screen.
Yeah, off the stainless steel screen, you know. I saw Sam's screens before I met him. I remember seeing screens and matches all over the floor. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And then it's like, oh, that's what it is. Just like a cartoon character. That's a comic book, I would say. Oh, what's Dr. David Allen hit me up about? We need to do a show about how cannabis destroys the value of $1, and that's why it's illegal. One guy can plant 1 million seeds, destroy working for an hourly wage. Well, that's used to be the way it was. Now you'd have to plant 1 million seeds to make $1.
To lose one.
To lose one. Oh, I'm a lifer. I don't care. I'm not really just doing it for, you know.
No, it's same, but like if we want to have a robust community, we have to create a viable marketplace. That's in my opinion, that's how we can actually preserve whatever it is that we had or have. And without that, it's just, you know, it's going to be like going to the grocery store, I guess, at that point, which maybe that's what it turns into. It's just farmers markets and grocery stores. Same thing with the weed business.
Yeah, it'll be hard to see. Weed's such a unique one because it fits into it could be at the farmer's market. It could be at the grocery store. It could be at a dispensary. It could be at a pharmacy. You could get it in a hospital. Like in the future, it could be all over the place. We'll see where it goes. I think I like the idea of trying to, you know, steer it the best way in the sense of do business the way you want business to be done. You know, like for yourself, I'm sure you're not going to be actively running a monster 400,000 square foot facility anytime soon because you know that would be the opposite of your thought of like everyone should have a small amount, grow something worth growing. But yeah, that's just human greed is a hell of a thing.
It seems realistic from a policy scenario to look at it as if you have to chemically derivize your end product in any form, that would be more constituently based towards a pharmaceutical product in my regard. And in the respect of a solventless product, ultimately that is thus a funnel in remediation, but yet it is not a chemically derived end product. So thus I could consider that to be still relative to that full product that we're talking about. So if it's going to be derived chemically, the same way that, say, corn oils are made, where they're using heavy hexane treatments and then distilling them through 30 to 50-foot tall towers. If it's going to be made that way, then essentially, unfortunately, this is terrible for corn oil for us. It should be considered a pharmaceutical product, of which many excipient products have came out of the agri industry. We really shouldn't necessarily have that much of a difference when it comes to the solventless base being conferred as this full spectrum, full broad, not derived product, to where that could be utilized in all respects, anywhere and everywhere. But it's technically not, unfortunately. I mean, we're all optimists and idealists here. That would be the great part.
Yeah,
Well,
I think
ahead.
one thing just to keep in mind is like we're just talking about ideally what some of these solutions are and what we may see, because I mean something as simple as like the federal government actually making the top 10 publicly traded cannabis companies pay their taxes, that would have a massively beneficial impact for all the small producers. So I mean there's all kinds of like things that can and may happen, and until then it's a matter of playing the game with the hand that you've been dealt. So whatever state you're in, you have to work within the bounds of whatever the legal laws are there and make your business what it needs to be. I mean, I'm not saying I'm against big grows necessarily. I'm just saying that if you want to see a robust marketplace, you have to have lots of small growers at the end of the day. And there has to be some way to keep them in business. And I feel like, and I don't know how this for a fact, but I feel like the quality of everything is just a lot better when you have a lot more people in the
Yeah.
marketplace competing.
Well, you have,
You
yeah,
know,
you
instead
have
of a
more
small
options.
group of people that are competing for profit, instead of a big group of people competing for consumer sentiment, essentially.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. Well, it's kind of why I like the idea of one day everyone that can grow cannabis everywhere could just ship it anywhere. So if you wanted to try
Agreed.
the terroir of California or Lebanon or whatever, you could just get it ordered off the computer. Regard whether that would need to be a smaller group or a larger group, or I think both could exist is all. It seems like cannabis has
Yeah.
many different markets within their market. You got your gas station market. Well, the big huge companies can feed that. Then you got dispo, maybe a variety of companies feed that. The farmers market, well, that's going to probably be like banging ass craft growers, pride involved, their pride. They want you to see, what you just said, customer sentiment. They want you to love their product, which is, kind of the people you want to be buying product off of. But it goes to be the same as we speak with cannabis. This is no different with food. And I can guarantee you the majority of the people who are listening, and definitely the majority of people who are in the world, are not getting all of their produce from their backyard or the farmers market, but they go to grocery stores, which is a thing that most people get their food from. It's easy to criticize, but fuck, if it wasn't there, a whole lot of us would be completely fucked on a huge level.
Absolutely.
I think most people still go to the grocery store, but I don't want to get my weed there. I'm with Fletch. I would like to see it like, I love the idea of a farmer's market, but I also love the idea of a dispo. When I first went into a Canadian dispo, and it was years, like years, it was probably 4 or 5 years after legalization in Canada that I went in, and I was with a buddy, and I had just given him a pivot and I had gotten a pivot. So we each had a brand new pivot, and we were going to his Chinese restaurant, his friend's restaurant. And there's my pivot actually that I was sitting with that day. And went to pull my rosin out, and I had left it at his farm. I had left it behind at his farm, like 45 minutes away. I was like, holy shit, dude, what are we going to do? And he's like, I don't know. I think there's like one of them weed stores. He's an older dude. He's like, I think there's a weed store across the street. And it was called Eggs Canna, EGGS, Eggs Canna. And I walk in there, and the lady was like, oh, good evening, sir. And I was just like, hi, and walked to the back. And then the dude who came out of the back, he was like, holy shit, Bubbleman. And I had this cool interaction with him where he was fanboying out a little bit, when in reality he should have been fanboying out with the guy that I was with, because the guy that I was with was very much like a skunk man Sam, like one of these dynamic, incredible dudes that have just done so much in the cannabis industry. So he takes us over to his hash, and he's like, oh yeah, this one's really good. And then I see high fidelity rainbow belts. And it's Caitlin, my friend Caitlin, who's been on Hash Church. Hello, Caitlin. If you're watching, she probably isn't because she just had a baby with her husband. But she's an incredible hash maker. My friend Ty grew all the flower, all grown in the Kootenays with a company called Woody Nelson. And I just was able to buy that gram of rosin. Now, it wasn't cheap. I think I paid like maybe 55 or 60 Canadian dollars for it, which probably would have been around, like 45 US. So not terribly expensive. And it was beautiful rosin. And the fact that I could just go into the store and buy that, it really did blow my mind. I had this revelation like, holy shit, like this was only available to us for so long. And now just like regular people can come off the street and buy this. This is just available. It blew my mind. And it made me feel like, you know what? It's not all been done right, but it's a start. This is good. This is a good thing. If people have access now, I'm sure if people walked in there and didn't have a fucking clue what they were looking for, they'd probably never find that hash. They'd probably end up buying some swaggy fucking canopy growth, pre-rolled fucking joint with distillate and terps in it and go on and love that. But the fact that it existed, the fact that me and my friend, two huge snobs, could walk into a dispo, which all I ever heard from dispo haters was like, oh, those places, they have nothing good. It's all bunk. It's like you couldn't buy anything good. It's all irradiated. It's like, well, it wasn't at all. It wasn't irradiated. It wasn't bunk. It was fucking awesome. And I smashed that gram so hard. Like it was as nice as any gram of rosin that we would smoke, kind of thing. So it's all perspective, best of both sides. I'd like to see a change. I'm not gonna lie. But I also will say the thing that we changed this industry in the past with, which at least here in Canada was activism and civil disobedience. Like we took the government to court. We weren't just protesting in the streets. We literally like took our government to court, and we won time and time and time again because of what Fletch just said earlier. Government's not smart. They're not the sharpest tack in the drawer. They're not they're a few sandwiches short of a picnic, let's just say. They don't have the ability. Thank God, maybe, because it would be scary. Maybe if the government was efficient and intelligent, it would be terrifying. But yeah, they're not the people to put in charge of that. That is for sure. All of the people in Canada that got put in charge of Canadian cannabis regulations, I'd say a huge, massive chunk of them came from the alcohol industry, because Canada was going to copy the alcohol industry in regards to each province will deal with buying everything, right? The BCLDB, the AGLC in Alberta, the OCS, Ontario Cannabis Store, the SQC in Quebec. These are entities that would buy all of the alcohol for the whole province and then sell it to all of the alcohol stores, whether it was a liquor mart or a restaurant. Everyone buys their alcohol from the government. Same thing with weed. They buy all the weed, they keep it in warehouses, and then they have a computer where they fill in everything that they've got. And once a week, all the stores go on to the thing and they see everything that's been released. And there's an enormous amount of, it's not super easy in the sense that they have gotten smarter in regards to what Fletch is talking about for regulations. You can be denied your SKU. You can apply for a SKU in Canada and completely be denied, which is, holy fuck, like you build a whole facility, you do all this, and then now you like go to build out your SKU and an entire province of millions of people says, no, you can't sell here. So that's kind of scary. But on the flip side of it, it's a double-edged sword, because if they say, yes, you can sell here, they might put an order in for like, $150,000 or whatever, and your whole business is now rocking and rolling off of one province. So it's a double-edged sword that cuts both ways. It can cut in your favor or it can cut very much against you. Yeah, fuck authority. I never felt like Canada was communist, but it might be coming more and more and more like that for sure. I don't pay attention. What's that?
It's definitely socialist.
It's definitely socialist. Yeah, absolutely. But I'll tell you, for most of my life, except maybe the last 10 years since Trudeau was in, Canada was awesome. It was just super good. Hey, what's up? How you doing? I'm waving to you. Yep. You're on Hash Church.
Hi.
Welcome. That's awesome. You know what's awesome is that you told me the story of how often she likes to come and visit you in your office, and now I just experienced it. That's awesome, dude. Hopefully my son comes in and says hi as well. He likes to come in and chime in as well. Yeah, it's an interesting conversation. You know, there's all this stuff that kind of is the unperceivable, but I do think it's pretty basic in the sense that I mean, we saw it with CBD, no regulation, $60,000 kilos down to like $400 kilos of isolate. Like they blew out the industry. They blew it right out of the water. Whereas everyone thought it was going to be this huge thing, and maybe it still is. I don't know what CBD is currently doing annually. Maybe it is doing billions of dollars. I mean, it's doing at least 1 billion with GW Pharmaceutical. I think they did 977 million with
Epidiolex, correct?
yeah,
Yes.
last year, 2025 or whatever. But I'm sure there's other companies still, bringing in funds through CBD and other minor cannabinoids. Hey, I just said, I can't believe
Look at that.
you're gonna go scootering. Well, say hi to the hash churchers. You gotta scoot down so they can see you. His daughter was just in here. What's up? This is Tanner. He's going scootering. All right, Tanner, give me a high five. Let's play some mini sticks when you're done. Big mini stick guy. The other thing I loved about Michigan is how much they love hockey in Michigan. Dude, that is like they are big fans of hockey in Michigan. I love
They're
that.
right there attached to Canada, basically. So it
Yeah,
makes perfect sense, you know.
They really are. That was crazy timing. My son didn't hear me. He just came to You're muted, Savvy.
The world is crazy. That is a crazy thing right there.
So what do you think, Fletch? Your perspective, how do we, I mean, obviously by existing in a high level, doing things the right way, not cutting corners, all of these things. But how do you think we'll get back our industry to the 50,000? And if we don't, the 1,000 or the 2,000 small grows that are produced? Because for me, I'll tell you, I don't grow. I have relationships with grows. And I talked to someone I went and saw a store in Michigan, a really cool store. I met this hash maker. He came and picked me up in Detroit, drove me to Ann Arbor. And this place was an old church. Fuck, was it cool. It was called Information Entropy. And I've got a couple of pictures actually, because I'll put it up because it was such a nice looking spot. Nice flowers out on the front and the whole 9 yards. Really nice people. The owner ended up being there, and the buyer ended up being there as well. I went with one of the hash makers who works for the hash maker team. And so that's Information Entropy right there. It's the old church. Super fucking good folks that were just really focused on quality and caliber. But I like, how do we make it the industry that we want? How do we get to that, 2,000 small grows? Because for me, my brand, we want to have relationships with as many growers as possible, different growers. And, there's a multitude of reasons for that. Crop loss and, cannabis is farming and things happen. And if we have one relationship and are vertically integrated, that to me just seems like a bad idea. Whereas, the natural way that I started this was I sold bags to a bunch of cool people and they made hash. And some of them, a small percentage of them, became what I would call a bubble ambassador, which, started finding genetics like from you, Fletch, and really going down the rabbit hole and wanting melty hash and wanting like these subtle nuanced flavors and really understanding that like this is, taking this to the next level kind of thing. Those are the very people who I want to end up finding as my growers. Those are the relationships. I want to have relationships with 40 or 50 or 100 growers in Michigan. I want to be able to showcase those small grows and say on my products that they've been powered by, molecular farms or whatever the name of the farmer is. Because I, as the hash maker, as the hash brand owner, I give props to my hash maker, but we really give the most props to the genetics and the growers. And so we want to have not a partnership with an MSO. And in fact, Bubbleman brand really only has, in fact, I am an MSO for that matter. I am a multi-state operator. I'm not a big multi-state operator that works on, and I only really have one partner in this entire cannabis industry that is a behemoth, an 800-pound gorilla, and that's in Quebec. And I would love to have you up there one day, Fletch, because I think you would love to see what they're doing, because it's just an anomaly. And 9.9 out of 10 companies that are doing what they're doing are not doing it the way they're doing it. The only reason I know that it's not an illusion, I've smoked the resin, I've seen the plants, I've experienced the entire frequency of the place. But Sam always said it. It's like you can grow cannabis on a very large scale if you want to, and it can be quality. I could grow it in fields. It's not. That's not the point.
I've always said this. I don't care what size the grow, where it is, any of that. The best grower grows the best weed. It's that simple.
It's true.
Right? Whoever was the best grower, whoever spent the
Agreed.
most time, did the right, made the healthiest plants. It doesn't matter where, how, nothing else matters other than you grew the best plants. So yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I'm not against big grows or any of that. I think that people should be able to grow their business. My point is simply that we kind of got on this conversation because you were talking about the entitlement, right?
Yeah.
That people deserve to have a spot in this industry and all that stuff. And I agree with you. I didn't feel entitled to anything,
And you
I
just
think
did the work.
that's that's your only choice, is to get in where you fit in. And every state's going to have different rules, different laws, different regulations, different businesses that work.
That's it.
And the one thing that I just think is unfortunate is that most of the laws were devised in a way that did not benefit the industry in a way that created lots of small independent operators, which is the culture that we all feel like we've kind of lost, right? And at the end of the day, it's like you were asking, how can we create the industry that we want to see? And unfortunately, there's only one real incentive that works, and it's money. At the end of the day, that's the one thing that actually works. We can't force the industry to be more educated. We can't force the customers to want better quality weed. The only thing we can do is okay, I'm against regulation, period. But if the government is going to regulate it, then it should be regulated correctly, is my point, right? In my opinion, is that the way to regulate it correctly is to prevent overproduction, so as to prevent commoditization of the value of the good. And I'm not saying that doesn't mean that weed's going to somehow be more expensive overall. That's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is, if there's not overproduction, there won't be this perverse incentive that's undermining the entire industry.
Yeah.
Right? Which is backdoored weed, overproduction.
Oh yeah. Bankruptcy
illegal
prices.
import, export, whatever you want to call it. All that stuff, all that does is create perverse incentives that benefit certain groups that either figure it out or lobby for that benefit. And that just doesn't benefit the consumer or the average producer at all, having all that in the background.
Well, what product is sold that doesn't do that and that benefits the buyer? Like, that's just like, I don't
all
know.
the stuff that has farmers unions instead of government intervention.
But
so
any
government intervention is going to have that corruption, because you have the public's money at play. There's all this money that's coming out of thin air.
But so
when
there's
it's the farmers union controlling like raspberry production, there's going to be politics within it, but it's within your group of raspberry producers, basically.
So like, they're not forcing you to, like, because I think of who, like, even these farmer groups, I'm like, well, they're destroying the biome of the soil. They're spraying all of these pesticides and herbicides. That's got to be undermining their industry a little bit, no?
Well, that's the mega farms, right? The farmers,
but only the mega farms.
Well, if you want to compete with the mega farms, I suppose you'd have to. But a lot of the unions, they have like basically, instead of every farm having their own processing facility, they have one processing facility, and the union kind of centers around the processing facility. Then you have lots of farms that basically sell their goods to the processing facility all at the same price. And they basically prevent overproduction so as to make sure that they can get $3.25 a pound or whatever. Because if they get $2 a pound, the farmer does, because there's too much production, half of them go out of business. Then the next year, there's an undersupply because half of them are out of business. So then the price goes crazy. So the unions are there basically to try to just prevent massive swings in value.
These
Right?
fluctuations.
It creates price
And,
stability.
and you're not preventing anybody from operating their business. You're just preventing people from fucking it up for everybody. It's like showing your buddies your good fishing hole. And then your buddy is there every single day with a net, netting the place. It's like someone needs to beat the fuck out of him. He's going to fuck the whole place up for everybody. It's that simple. Like we're all going to starve if he's going to net this place.
Right. Yeah, it's a conundrum for sure to see how it, and then now it's global too. So it's happening in all these different places. Hopefully, eventually, I know it's not changing too much when I see new countries go online and they do exactly the same thing that all the countries before them that went online with legal cannabis. And so until I mean, Thailand was unique. I will say that when the way Thailand did it, I was like, damn. But they even realized, okay, this is the opposite. Like you cannot have no rules whatsoever.
Well, if Thailand didn't have all the export markets and they were tightly regulating the import export of the product,
yeah,
it actually would have been fine. All these big mega grows set up would have gone out of business immediately
for sure.
because they wouldn't have had a place to sell it. Like the whole thing that's propping up this fictitious growth in the industry is simply that there's still places to send weed that aren't producing it themselves or producing it cheaply enough.
Well, because
You know,
that's called
California is the
that's called
perfect
the cannabis
example.
market. But that's the market. That's what it is. People want to buy weed and they don't have enough production. So it's like you fill that need by Jamaica was doing that back in the 70s and the 80s. It's just like we got all
I
this
understand.
on our
But
little island.
eventually that road ends is my point, right? And then what is
Eventually, but
and
we
then
are
what does that market look like?
I
And
don't
that's
know, but
kind of what we're
I
talking
bet
about.
you it's not
I
in
think
our
it's less than
lifetime.
10 years away.
You really think
Because
so?
yeah,
whole world
absolutely.
getting
Because less
saturated?
than 10 years ago, there was an insatiable demand. I didn't know anybody that had 1,000 lights 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Or
You
maybe I
didn't?
knew a couple big
Yeah,
spots, right, in
sure.
Colorado, but like basically nobody. And a few guys with maybe a combination of grows that would get close to that. But
Yeah.
now 1,000 lights is like on every corner. So I think it's the reality is that you know, global production is going to go to where the lowest cost of production is. The states and countries that want to preserve their own homegrown market will prevent import export, and the ones that don't will import really cheap product.
And places like Cali and Hawaii, there'll be certain places, Jamaica, that in my opinion will be able to export their flower to the world and the world will want that flower.
I think I don't even know if flour will be a big portion of the business at that point.
Well,
I mean,
extracts.
yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting when you think about it that like main consumer base is on like a 10-year cycle. You know, it's mostly young people that spend the most money because by the time you have kids and everything else, most people quit smoking or quit smoking as much. And then
or run
retirement
out of
age,
water,
people start
money.
up again. So it's like every 10 years or every 10-year block, there's a whole new group of consumers essentially entering the marketplace. And you can kind of see that with just like, you know, the strains, how fast the strains change and what the demand is. You can't grow the weed from 10 years ago and still sell it today.
That's
And
insane.
so, yeah, I think it's just interesting that how fast this market is moving and where it's going to end up. I don't know. I think a lot of us, including myself potentially, are all chasing solutions that problems that may not exist in the future in the weed industry.
Right.
Well,
Unfortunately, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say what he said before about the small farms and the big farms, like they both need to exist, but the big farms more on the scale of what you said, having a passionate grower that's capable of doing large scale, but having that work to service an industry be regional with small regional farms provides value to the price because it gives you stability in the price because those regional farmers are going to make sure that within themselves they're not overselling or overproducing so that they can have business the next year. and it provides a global value because now you have regional product like what we have with grapes and wine and all these other things where we're getting value out of what is good in that area. And that stabilizes the market for a very long period of time. That's why the wine industry doesn't have an issue. That's why they're not killing each other anymore like 200 years ago, because they've stabilized everything. You know, like we bastardize alcohol, which I don't really like to consume alcohol, but if we take a look at how they've regulated, it's how it's done. You know, like you have these small farmers that can produce very high quality grapes, you know, or very high quality product. And then you have a better overall product for your consumer at a much lower price, but it's stable and it's stable forever. And we're not at that, you know, like we're not anywhere close to that. Because
But while we're talking about all this and talking about how messed up our industry is, blah blah this and blah blah that.
Well, we're trying to find solutions, actually.
No, of course, but you're right, and I'm loving it. I'm just saying we are slaughtering the alcohol industry in the meantime. It's just bleeding out right in front of us, like losing billions of dollars every year from everyone who's, you know, actively making cannabis and probably fungi and mushrooms available to people. It's alcohol is just it's the fourth or fifth choice if it's even on the list these days for people.
And somehow, I'm not sure ultimately, but apparently cannabis use is more prevalent than cigarettes nowadays too, which is kind of interesting.
That's wild.
Yes. CNBC, Forbes are all running the same headline, basically. I have to follow up on the study and actually read the white paper myself.
The white paper. No, I appreciate this conversation, man. It's a conversation that not a ton of people are having. And it's just who knows where it's going to go. I have faith in cannabis. I always kind of had, and I feel like it's better than it was because of how available it is now. I'm not going to get complacent myself. I don't think it's the best that it can be. I don't think we're there by any means, but we've definitely made what seemingly was the impossible. You know, we got through the impossible obstacle, at least here in Canada and kind of in the US too. It doesn't feel that different when I'm there. It's a little different in the sense that you're going to different states, and that's a bit freaky that it's your responsibility as a cannabis user in each state to understand the laws. Whereas in Canada, we just have a federal law. You're allowed to have it. You can smoke it anywhere tobacco's smoked. There's signs where you can smoke it. They generally like you to not have it open on your seat in front of you. So kind of like booze, like have it closed in the package. Now there's a bunch of different variations in Canada because if you're a rec product buyer, then you would go buy a product, right? You'd go buy something like this, and you would want to make sure that the tax stamp here was not ripped, that it was sealed in your vehicle, and then you'd also probably put it, you know, in your back seat or something. Now the police aren't overly going to go off on where you have your herb. They just want to make sure it's not super, you know, available next to you. Your Puffco's in the thing. Now, if you're a medical patient, all of that goes out the window because you don't need to have your herb in a container like this. You can have your herb in a plastic bag or in a little terp koozie, you know, whatever you happen to have it in. It doesn't need to have a tax stamp on it because it can be your medical product. Now, on the flip side of that, you can also be a recreational grower. You could be growing your own product, which means you could put that in your own. So basically, they made it so almost anything is allowed. Now, for the most part, unless you're medical, the two need to have their weed in the back. The person who's medical, I could not imagine a cop in Canada causing a problem with someone who had their flower like just in the back seat or on the floor in the front seat or something. So it's different when I'm in the US. I'll ask people, what are the laws here? Like, what are we allowed to have? And they'll kind of know some basic shit, but they won't always know exactly. And I'm like, man, like, I'm not messing around in America. So each state that I go to, I'm definitely going to get a little bit of information from a local lawyer to just let me know how much I'm allowed to have, what the rules are for driving, et cetera, because I don't want to ever do something accidentally that, you know, finds me getting in trouble and then I can't come back to the States anymore for another 30 years. That sucked. Let me tell you. Imagine living right next to a country that you're not allowed to visit for 30 years. It's just like some strange, like, so it's like, whoa, I thought I was an earthling, but apparently I'm a Canadian. I can't leave without a passport.
the state siloed aspect of THC in America is very interesting and compartmentalized for, you would think, access points, but that's how it's evolving at this rate. It's not necessarily even close to an ideal. I mean, with every independent segment, they're going to be able to regulate it however they want. Each state in each division and each part of the country and region regulates it how they want. So just even trying to get to the federal structure that Canada has, it's kind of a farce at this point. Only because we're sitting here debating three different legal structures for cannabis currently, of which it's hemp, it's Schedule 1, or it's Schedule 3, all for essentially the same genus of plant, of which you could fall on any side of that argument that you would wish. But ultimately, at the end of the day, as it is cannabis, cannabis is cannabis. The thing that truly matters is essentially what the chemotype is, of which that seems to be an elusive concept to all regulators, no matter where they're at, even compartmentalized, especially in the House and the Senate, of which there is not a single actual professional botanist that is sitting, which, once again, going to stay away from the political aspect of it. But it's an unfortunate consequence for the plant that ultimately, at the end of the day, we should be able to access, and everybody should be able to access, regardless of where you're at.
It's worse that it's not like a botanist or someone who knows plants, and it's someone who hates cannabis. That's even like it's on the flip
side. I wasn't even going down the cannabis
let's just throw. I always make the joke that it would be the equivalent of hiring the most homophobic person and let them be in charge of gay marriage. Be like, here, you get to, and then the gay community would be like, what the fuck? Like, we could be in charge of gay marriage. We're gay. Like, you seem to be homophobic and hate. It's the same thing with cannabis. They're like literally anti-cannabis people who are writing regulations and creating all these different involvements. And it's like, Jesus Christ, like, I have faith eventually that more and more cannabis-centric people will get into those positions. And I've told the story before. I met a guy in Manitoba who was the buyer for the Manitoba government. He bought for the province of Manitoba, and he was like a 38-year-old dude. But I went to this guy's house. Every single room in his house was a fucking grow room, a tent, a hash making lab, a fucking cloning room, trimming room. I mean, it was, I walked into his house, I saw like 2 rooms, and I said, you are not married and you do not have a girlfriend. Is that correct? And he said, yes, that is correct. I was like, no way would a woman live in this house. This is incredible. You have it all. He's like, yeah, I even got a 3D printer. I'm printing off tags from my plants so I don't mix them up. This guy was so far down the rabbit hole of like cannabis geek, loving hash and flavors and tastes. And I was like, you're the buyer for Manitoba? He's like, yeah. I'm like, this is actually awesome. It made me feel so good to see at least one guy that kind of knew what he was doing. Now, he's purchasing for a very
That's a rarity.
It's a super rarity, dude.
Yeah.
It's a super rarity, but it shows that it can happen. And in my opinion, that's what we got to do. We got to get
what it should be like.
We got to get more people who are actively loving cannabis to get into these positions. If we can become them, we can start changing these rules and regulations and steering things. I don't think repelling and fighting them. I think it's a matter of getting good people in our industry into those positions, into those jobs. I'm going to have a little dab here out of the plasma.
Or you pay them.
Or you pay them. Yeah, exactly. Just pay them.
That one's more guaranteed.
Yeah, I guess so. Fuck, eh?
That's how the rest of the world works.
So how much longer are you going to be down there for? Like at least a month or 2?
Yeah.
Okay,
well,
good.
I'm not going to be here full time, but you can come visit for sure.
Cool. I got to figure that out, dude. I'll probably just rent a car, even though that scares me too, because what if I rented someone else's car and they didn't clean it well enough and a roach or a joint or a pill got. So I'm really like, don't want to take the chance at the border that I ever get told you
raid
can't
your own rental car before you hit the border. Get a drug dog, get an elective drug dog search on your own rental vehicle before you go to the border.
The other option is I could walk into Blaine and I could rent a car.
Oh, well, you can also take the transporter from like like Vancouver airport to Seattle. They have like buses and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, the transporter bus. I thought you were talking about the SkyTrain. That would have been fucking amazing.
You could take the train too, I think, also like regular train.
Right.
Amtrak or whatever.
Yeah, I took the bus to Detroit once. I flew in just this last trip, but I took the bus last time, and it goes under the tunnel,
Yeah.
under the water there.
The bus down is only like a couple hours from Vancouver to Seattle.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. Is that where I'd go? Go to Seattle? Get close?
Yeah.
Go to the big shitty. That's our sister city. Vancouver. Vancouver and Seattle are called sister cities.
I mean, they're more similar now than ever.
What's up, Caleb? Caleb's just smashing the dabs. I like the little mouthpiece,
I had
dude.
to too.
I like the little mouthpiece. I like that a lot. I need to get myself on that boat. You know what? I rolled a joint, but then I smoked a dab. Is this how it goes?
You just got to do both. You know, I came in smoking on a Bloom hash hole that I was ripping. So still hash, a little bit of cannabis, a little bit of flower. It was all good. I loved it.
Nice, dude. I had such a good hash hole recently. It was a Seedsman Haze. It was all organic, and it was 2 grams, and it had 0.5 gram of Seedsman Haze rosin. It was probably like a 0.8% return or something, that rosin. And me and my buddy pretty much smoked that thing to it. You know, we were at this place where they definitely know about cannabis. It was this new lounge in Vancouver, and we offered it to like 5 other people, and they're like, "Oh no, man, I can't be hitting that right now. Like, I got stuff to do." And I'm just like, dude, this is the stuff to do joint. What are you even talking about? Like, we smoked that fucking thing, and it was like, I mean, it's not an anxiety attack for me, but whatever that feeling is that people say they're having an anxiety attack where their heart's racing and their whole just reeling, I felt like that for probably an hour and 45 minutes straight. Like, it was profound. I would love for you to come up one day and hit the Seedsman Haze with us, Fletch. You would approve. It's a special one that my buddies have kept for 20.
Well, now that I'm not going to be in Washington, I'm going to have to take trips to go snowboarding. So I guess I'll have to go to Whistler instead because Washington is always wet these years.
And I guess you're going where you've been spending all your time lately. Is that kind of the plan?
Yeah, I got a couple places. I got a couple projects I'm finishing up, and then yeah, we'll see what I end up doing.
Oh, yeah. Well, it'd be great to fucking ride the mountain with anyone who's watching. Any Cash Church family, I'll be riding the mountain all winter long. Hopefully I'll get my 20 to 25 days in. So come on up and ride. Just don't be terrible. If you're terrible, I can't ride with you. I've been riding for too long. I won't be able to do that.
You got to give me a couple years to learn first. That's what we were talking about the other day. I was like, let me bust my ass on the hills here for a year or two before I come let you leave me in the dust.
Dude, yeah, because that's the thing, right? It's just about like, and I remember riding with people that were so much better than me, and I could barely keep up. And when I first moved out here, and I honestly loved that feeling. I loved the feeling of being with a group of 7 people and literally being the worst snowboarder because I had everything to learn. They were just like hitting every hit off the side, like just pew, pew, ripping down the middle, going off rollers and flying like 40 feet before they land. Like, I was just like from Manitoba, you know, where everything's flat. I'd learned on a garbage dump hill. I was like, this is the fucking big leagues. I could keep up with them barely. No, I could keep up with the one girl barely. And she was some like ranked 3rd amateur in the country or something. They were all so good. But now I can keep up with pretty much anyone because I've been doing it for 35 or almost 40 years. I just love it. I love getting into the snow. I love going through the trees. I love the feeling of just like being on the mountain, but I also do love going fast. I really do love pushing it to the level of like, wow, this would be detrimental if I fell right now. There's some sort of level of enjoyment in there. It's probably why I broke so many bones in my life. I think 17 full broken bones, my collarbone being my last one, which is definitely like has not set. It's like all fucked up. It's got like a hole in it here and it goes up there. Which guy hasn't broken his collarbone? Honestly, have any of you broken your collarbone in here? I knew you, dude. I'm not even going to get into it with you, Savvy.
No, I have not broke it. I have not broke my collarbone.
Really?
Yeah, years of skateboarding, never broke the collarbone. Maybe I'll get it. Maybe I'll get that one done snowboarding. Yeah,
oh my God, dude.
I am
So how are you doing,
fortunate
Caleb?
and I have never broken a single bone.
Not a single bone?
Nope, not a single bone. I've actually driven ATVs off of 2,000-foot precipices down in the mountains up here, hung up in trees about
You
25
mean
foot,
down?
dislocated my shoulder. I mean, down down into a crevasse,
Oh my
of
God.
which I still have never broken a single bone in my entire life.
You know what? Sometimes you fall in an incredible way. I went backwards off a mountain in Whistler. It was probably 120 feet, but certainly enough to kill me. Because I went backwards off of it. I kind of went up. We were all sitting on this knoll, and I was like, I'm gonna go slash the snow and blow it up over the view, and you guys can get a cool picture. Well, the snow was like dust on crust, and I bit, and I like flipped over, and I went down, and I dropped 120 feet, and I actually got caught up in a tree. Didn't knock the wind out of myself. Like, still had my I wasn't hurt. I didn't break any bones, but all of my friends that I was with thought they had witnessed my death. So I believe you that you could have flown off some massive thing into a crevasse and broken something or nothing, because sometimes you can land the right way. And I've also broken bones doing almost nothing, where I'm like, how did that happen so easily? Like, what am I, made of paper mache?
No, I
Oh,
ended up
physics.
dislocating my shoulder out of it. And like I said, I was stuck up in a pine tree, but definitely didn't break anything when the bike was unretrievable.
Right? Yeah, well, I'm going to do my best not to break any more bones. My last one was a couple years ago at my son's birthday party in Whistler at the skate park. I was ripping around on the skateboard, and I was flying, and I hit a rock, and my board just stopped. It went, and I like Supermaned onto my shoulder. And when I landed, it sounded like you're breaking like the largest branch of a tree that you could possibly imagine. It was so loud and obnoxious. And I've said it before, when I got up, I looked at the face, I turned around and looked at all the young people that were in the park, and the look on their faces, I knew I had broken something, because they were just looking at me like, holy shit, bro. Like, that was a slam. And then I went like this and and I could just feel my bones sticking straight up out of my shoulder. I was like, fuck. Told my wife I'm going to go to the hospital. And then I wandered over to the hospital because it's Whistler. So the skate park is, coincidentally just a block away from the head trauma and hospital, which we have like a helipad in Whistler at the hospital. Like, they can bring you there very quickly if you need to be, and they can bring you from the back country. Keep in mind, Whistler is surrounded by 192 glaciers that people do tend to snowboard and ski down. It's insane. There you go, Andrew Morrell.
At least the help is close for people that get messed up.
Yeah, if you have an ability to communicate, I always tell people to get an inReach, because it's like a satellite communicator that just, you can send texts through your telephone through this inReach thing. It's kind of like a satellite phone, except it's just satellite texts that you can also send your live location to anyone, not just like, obviously the SARS search and rescue is gonna have it, but you can send it to your wife, you can send it to your friend, your mom, your dad, whatever. So it's a nice feeling when you go into the back country, and because back in the day that was not the case. You could go and you could push an SOS button, but this thing has a return SOS. So when you send the SOS, they return the message and say, hey, we got your ping. You're at this longitude and this latitude. We'll be there in about 25 minutes, or an hour and 25 minutes, or 2 hours and 25 minutes. They generally come in a helicopter. But it's nice to know that you can, for those of you that haven't done it, it's kind of scary when you leave civilization and you go far enough away that any type of trauma you can perish. And in fact, you do, and people do all the time. It's kind of like war, isn't it, Savvy? Like, going out on the fucking into the glacier, like, people fall into crevasses on their sleds, avalanches get set off, and people get buried. I don't know if you guys saw that. Those famous Nepali mountaineers were all died like yesterday or 2 days ago. I think 11 of them passed away. One being the guy that like did all the highest peaks ever. So rest in peace to those guys that, you live your life. I'll tell you one thing. It's likely that you'll die where you spend the most of your time.
Well,
And so that's kind of a trippy thing when you start being one of these backcountry kind of, it starts with snowboarding and skiing, but then you get the sled or you get into helicopters. And now you're in the backcountry. And it's incredible how many of people who love the backcountry because it's untamed civilization. It's almost like going into an area where there's a lot of grizzly bears. You now put yourself in the food chain, right? Whereas right now, all of us are definitely not in the food chain. We're all sitting outside of the food chain for the most part, at least in the illusionary world, because obviously when we die, probably bugs and stuff are going to consume us.
That's how those guys want to go out, though. Those guys that love the backcountry, that's their ultimate death. They're like Vikings.
Well, they want to die doing what they love.
Yeah.
And they are kind of like Vikings in that sense. It's like, Jesus Christ, man. Ur, we will worship Ur, the winter god. May it snow. Fletch is torched. I love the comments that people make while we're just chatting and talking. Are you torched, Fletch?
No, I was grabbing some Q-tips.
Hell yeah, you were. I got mine right here in the custom Bubbleman Q-tip dispensary. You can get yours at bubbleman. No, I'm just joking. Oh, fuck. It's funny. I just want people to have good hash. That's really the truth of it. The whole bag thing, it was like, I didn't think it was going to be the success that it was going to be. I was really at a point where I was like, it would be very good if everyone had nice hash. I love when people have better hash than me. I'm the guy that when I play chess, I am super stoked if the guy playing me or the girl is way better than me, has a higher IQ in chess, has a higher. I have hash church because I like to invite people that I consider to be more knowledgeable than me on certain things, because then I get to learn it. I get to have them come on and share their perspectives and experiences, and I get to learn it. So that's where I'm coming from. Absolutely. What do we got? 11:49. Should we go for another hour and 10 minutes, or should we call it in 10 minutes? What are you doing there, Caleb? Tell us about what you've been doing for the week.
Been recovering from being at the state fair.
Damn, you
Found
did
it
the state fair for like
Sacramento.
5 or 10 days? How long was that?
I haven't been there straight. Some people have been there straight, just greeting all the newcomers, but I went just on Saturdays to go to the award shows.
So how many Saturdays did you go? Just one or two?
Two.
Two Saturdays, which means it was definitely at least 8 days long.
The whole fair is like 20 some days long. It's really like the biggest event that has cannabis kind of anywhere adjacent to it at this point, I think.
I guess if you're going to set up that kind of a thing, you don't do it for a couple of days. Like, that's infrastructure. They're building out, like, there's animals and shit there, isn't there?
Yeah, there
At the
are.
state fair, yeah, like that, exactly. So cattle and
yeah, the California State Fair is like unique in that it's written into the like state constitution. So the actual like fairgrounds are maintained by the government and they have to run this event. So the cannabis competition at this state fair is technically the first like government sanctioned cannabis competition.
And that's Sacramento?
Mhm. For
Sacramento.
the whole California State Fair. And they had a home grow competition this time. And there was actually more diversity in the home grow than there was on the license side. Now, I want to go back to what Fletch was saying earlier about there being 1,000 lighters on every corner and that there being really like 10 years left for the indoor flower market. I'd say for like the outdoor market, it's that moment is coming faster. And especially for the outdoor derived distillate market, that moment has already come because there are multi-hundred acre farms of just CBD flower that they sell for $2 to $4 per pound dried, which then gets turned into CBD distillate, which then gets turned into THC distillate, which is then inverted into every fucking licensed market and also just at the unlicensed gas stations. So like there's actually competition for that portion of the market that, doesn't care to get their THC from more premium flower, whether indoor or outdoor. And like on that side, the oversupply happened fucking years ago and it's continuing to happen. And so really like this premium portion of the market, like we're talking about hash, even for the flower, which is a little bit larger at this point, it's really so different. It's orders of magnitude difference in price, and it's already here, the differentiated markets. So I really love that point, Flesh.
Well, I think there's an interesting like cultural thing when you think about it too. So like, us older guys, when we first came in the market, there was an incentive to care about quality because you got paid to care. So we all, there was a natural incentive to being curious about it, is that you now became skilled at it and could make a living doing it. And that's been true up until, basically now that it's becoming a job for most people, the opportunity, especially with the cost of like setting up a grow and everything these days, it's not just like a business a kid that right out of high school can start up on like they used to be able to. So where are the young people that are going to be interested in the future of weed? Where are they coming from? Why do they have any interest in weed? There's no incentive for them to care. Why would they? It's just another thing that costs them money. They don't have any opportunity to make any money doing it. So it's going to be interesting. Right now we're still in a period where there is a lot of younger people that just 5 years ago, even COVID especially, created some good business for some people. But with now what's going to happen with once those people age out of the market and it becomes this, after COVID market, it'll be interesting.
I think it's up to us to share the passion, because what I see in some young people, and I know I'm an anomaly because I'm in this niche of a niche of a niche of a niche of a niche. But I see these young guys that are excited, and it's not necessarily for money. Sure, they definitely want to they want to put food on their family's table first and foremost.
Well, that's hard for a lot of people right now.
It is, but it's like, I see people willing to do it. I see people like, what I guess I have my faith in is this relationship that a small percentage of us seemingly will always have with cannabis, where we will be the steward for this plant and we will look out for this plant. And it touches us in such an intimate way that it's just, it's separate from all the business and the economics of it and all that. It doesn't make sense. It's like an obsession almost. It's like cordyceps. It's like this thing's gotten into our brain, and it's like literally like, you're going to go over here to this state fair and try all these weeds, and then we're going to go over here and buy some rosin from, I don't know.
But
it's just
there's not very many people that are preserving the plant out of pure passion.
There's not, but it doesn't take that many.
I'm in the business of it and in the passion of it,
but
it's very rare.
Enough. And one thing I will say is that novelty can pop up in a split second, the way it did with water hash. Before water hash existed, it just wasn't a thing, and nobody knew about it. We were all doing a certain thing, and then this little thing just blew up, and everyone was like, oh, and it literally created an entire new arm for our industry. I'm leaving space for novelty to occur like that again in our industry. And I feel like even if we get down to just one person who's doing what you're doing and what a lot of us are doing, that'll be enough to sort of keep it alive, to get to that explosion that, maybe we're going to see with genetic marking, where we can take genetics and run it through this thing. Go ahead.
We need to financially incentivize people. It's really the thing that works the best. I mean,
well, you're right. You're not wrong.
If young people have an opportunity to make a good living,
and
an opportunity to start a business, and there's growth in the space or whatever else, and it's not just totally blown out.
Yeah.
That's really what we need to get young people interested, because they still, like you said, if we don't provide that, then the smartest people are going to go to every other industry where their efforts will be rewarded. Right.
Yeah, you're not wrong in that sense. I'm happy so what we got to do is we got to build brands and businesses and stores and everything that succeed. That's it. So we're doing exactly that.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
I'm just
saying
we have
to do that and try to exclude the overproducers and the people that remediate product and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's really all the industry needs. Is if you get rid of the bad actors, that alone would probably correct the majority of the problems.
we kind of need to be allowed to regulate ourselves, you know, like, and the barrier to entry for this younger generation needs to be removed, because the price to barrier for entry for small farms, even here in Michigan where it's really legal, is very high for the average person that's going to be starting a
Yeah.
small.
Well, wasn't it like $50,000 for a Class A license or whatever it was in Michigan when it first came out? Or more, and like, for example, like all these states, they pass stuff that makes it non-incentivized for young people. And I guess my point is we need to try to create incentives that make young people interested in this industry, because at the end of the day, cannabis is kind of a young man's sport. It's a young man's industry. It's a young man's consumer product to a certain degree. Not wholly, but in a lot of ways it is. I mean, all of us we're probably more active under 30 with cannabis than are over 40.
Right. Yeah. And you know what? In all honesty, like, I'm not of the belief system that some of these other companies that are doing things shitty are doing it on purpose. Maybe some of them are, but some of them are just can't figure it out. I'm also going to leave space for them to get better, for them to hire better people, for them to become more open into the community of people who have been studying this and understanding it for years and years and years. They have the infrastructure, they have the ability. If they can humble pie themselves, damn near put themselves out of business, and then be like, we need some craft growers in here. We need some proper processors in here. And we're going to need to treat them properly.
But like Savvy said, if they're remediating weed that they know is moldy and they're serving it up 1,000 pounds at a time to people, I don't think they should be in business. I don't think they should get good operators. I don't think they should get good employees. I don't think they should get any of that. I think they should get put out of business is what I think.
The only way they can stay in business is if people support them. So if people support them and buy those products, then they disagree with you and they think they should stay in business. But I don't myself.
In most cases, those companies we're talking about, they're able to sell those products because they've colluded with the government or the regulations to have a stronghold on the market, like Florida, for example.
Yeah.
It's not a true competitive market, so that's,
we
have
to play.
Right. We have to get rid of the bad actors and then make the business good for small operators at the end of the day.
And how do you do that? By just creating a different business model that succeeds and puts the bad actors out of business? Because I would not know. I can go and do my business the way I want to do it and kind of operate it the way I think makes the most sense and takes care of the most people and seems to work out for the most amount of people instead of just myself. But I have no idea how to get rid of multi-billion or multi-million-dollar MSOs that are operating. I just kind of feel like give them the rope, let them try to succeed. Here's the problem. If they succeed, well, then people want them to succeed.
If they made most of those people just follow the law, they would go out of business.
Right. But that's just not how business works.
Alone,
you said it earlier.
It's like Glass House Farms. They say they're going to grow 1.6 million pounds of weed. The whole state of California only consumes 1.4 million pounds of weed on the legal market. So what? They're growing all the weed in the whole state? No. So where's the rest of that weed going? Well, it's not going through the state system. So, it's companies like that would just be out of business if they were actually just forced to deal with the regulations.
Yeah. Yeah. They get the
not even changing the regulations how I think that they should be or whatever it is. Just putting the bad actors out of business would correct a lot of the problems alone.
Very interesting for sure. Well, hopefully, I mean, here in Canada, we've seen a lot of the bad actors fail. We've seen a lot of them disappear. We've seen a lot of them pivot and continue, and they're still in business.
That's because they're back there. That's because they're backdooring shipping containers to Buffalo, New York.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of that going on.
Definitely doing that.
All of the cannabis they write off out of the vaults, I would say huge amounts of it like go into different markets,
For
gray
sure.
and black and legal, both, or all three, I should say. That's definitely not happening. It's a tough one.
The ones still in business are the ones that need forklifts.
That's right. That's right. Well, I'm just getting my lab going again tomorrow. I was supposed to get it going last week. My lab, we have the one in Kelowna going right now. but we have another one in Delta, the lab that I built with the company Embark, and I'm going to be working again tomorrow morning. I'll be there. I've got 12,000 grams. No, I have 65,000 grams of material waiting for me to wash. It's dry material, it's sugar trim. And the reason that is because I'm going to be training a variety of people. First, I'm going to interview people, and how I interview people is I just offer them a paid day in the lab where I'll just pay them a decent wage and have them come into the lab and run a batch with me and see if they kind of can get it, you know, and then
they have to smoke a gram of hash right there
in one dab. Absolutely. If they can't do that, they're fucking out.
Before. Just kidding.
But yeah, no, I'm excited to get back in the lab. I just spent like a bunch of time, you know, doing the teaching course. And then I spent time with my dude. I got to shout out Yield Distro. I don't know if you use them in Michigan, Fletch, but they are, I mean, it's not that I also love my sales guys in Colorado, but my sales team in Michigan, dude, like I've never met a sales team where I got along with all the people and didn't think at least most of them were douchebags. They're all like heady people. And so I got to spend time with each. I got to spend time with Morgan, a new employee who left alcohol and came to cannabis, and super cool chick. And we drove around Lansing and Grand Rapids. And then I met with Max, and Max is like a super heady dude and fucking really generous, kind individual. We cruised around. Where did we end up going? I think we did Lansing as well, actually, East Lansing. Anyway, it was yeah, shout out to those guys. Yield Distro has an incredible team, and they've got they just have people who are living the culture. They're just not like hired to sell products. They're all like dabbers and smokers, and they love the products and they love the different brands, and they love learning about the people behind the brands and the SOPs and the way they do it and how they grow and how they process. And I just thought it was cool to see, oh yeah, this is how it could be. You could do it like this. So shout out to Aaron, who started Yield Distro. And it's not a surprise to me that they blew up so big. And maybe a team like that could only exist in Michigan, but they really do have a cool team. And I can say that because the last event I went to in Michigan, the trip before this one was like, I think it was like an annual, like a massive, I don't know the group that puts it on, but they rent a really nice golf course out, and they have 50 to 100 booths that are like 10 foot by 10 foot, just with a couple of chairs and a table in it. And it's like a speed dating where brands and sales teams and fucking people from all over different stores of the state, they all kind of link up. And I just was amazed at how 99% of them were all like from the heady culture. They were all like, not the Sudi Chad culture, but really super heady, like understanding what quality is, understanding what they were looking at. We had Full Melt Bubble while we were there, 6-star Bubbleman brand. So it was very easy to blow minds, but to show that to someone and have them know what it is and kind of realize how rare it is and be, you know, like the level of appreciation, Yield Distro was definitely that. So yeah, that last trip I went, I met 28 of the Yield Distro sales teams, 25 to 28 of them. And they were all super nice, super kind. They were just people I could hang out with easily. And you know how you don't always get along with everyone. And for sales, sales is a slippery slope. If you ever heard what Bill Hicks said about marketing, I don't, if you haven't seen it, you should Google Bill Hicks and marketing. He's an old school comedian. And he basically starts it like, you know, hey, is anyone in marketing in here? Are you in marketing? If you're in marketing, I just want to ask you, you know, you should kill yourself right now. And then there's this like long, awkward pause. And he goes, yeah, that's not a joke. I'm just giving you life advice. If you're in marketing, and that's how he starts the comedy bit. It's super heavy. It's super gnarly. And it is super accurate. It's easy to sell your soul when you're in marketing. And I'm not saying that about most marketing people. There are great people out there who, you know, you just know the product and you share it and you tell people what they need to know, but you don't push it. And then that's good. But man, there are a lot of people that don't do that. So yeah. How about this? Bart Simpson's chalkboard. And I wrote, I will not waste hash 50 times. What do you think of that? Who wants that sticker? That's Bart Simpson's chalkboard right there. Come on. It's fucking cool. Shout out to D now for that little doodaddy. Anyway, 12:07. What do you guys think? You want to go for another little bit, or do you guys got things to do, places to be, people to see, hash to smoke?
Got all the above, but I do have a quick question for you, Marcus. We're talking about kind of a
Please.
retrospective view over the past 10 years of cannabis and the market evolution, specifically relative to solventless. How far do you think we honestly truly are from a continuous process? Like a true continuous process, instead of having an implement, running it for a fixed period of time, and even still having to transition between batch to batch to batch. It's like, what about having a finished batch coming out primarily packaged the same way that, in my experience, pharmaceuticals come out of the back end of a GMP factory?
I think we're very complacent in the process right now. I can't imagine. Oh, here's the thing. Novelty can pop up in the next 3 minutes. It could just pop up and exist, and wow, Pandora's box has been opened. But also, it could be another 25 years. I don't know what if someone's working on making that the most important factor. I think what you're talking about would probably be even further, like and I don't know if it would be solventless. Maybe it would be. Maybe there's a solventless process where we can fractionate different volatiles and compounds, but for it to be turned into a pharmaceutical product, that to me is in milligrams and in different types of weights. Now, is there going to be a product that you could just throw everything in and have it come out into like packaged in a jar or ready, or even a dry powder ready to be packaged into a jar? Would blow my mind. I don't know that anyone's really working on such a thing. And I feel like when people are working on things when it comes to water extraction, they reach out to me. I have a lot of people reach out to me and tell me about the sort of experiments they're doing. And I'll put this as a call to action right now. If you are thinking about these things, definitely reach out to me. I love having these conversations. I think that the way it'll happen will be the way it almost always happens with us. Someone will make some key mistake and recognize the variables that the mistake happened under, so they'll be able to recreate the mistake. And that's just kind of how rosin and probably water extraction and a bunch of other of the coolest things that we ever figured out with, decarboxylation. Like, who the fuck figured that out with weed the first time? The Scythians, just like burning weed and breathing it in as vapor off those little dishes. I don't know. But I think about these things when someone had to do it the first time. Like, do you really think they sat there and they were just so intelligent, it just came to them that they should try this? Or was it some sort of accident? I feel like some of the greatest discoveries for humans anyway tend to be in the accidental realm, which is why I generally tell people, like, try not to be so perfect that you don't make mistakes, because I guarantee you your mistakes will bring you further than your perfection, at least if you learn from them. I think that's pretty accurate. I'll stand by those words. I don't know. I really don't know. I hope so. That'd be cool. It'd be neat. But at the same time, I really don't know when we'll see that. I know tomorrow I'm going to be putting material and ice and water into a 300-liter unit and washing the shit out of it for a few hours with a gentleman by the name of Jono. So I'm going to be, I'm not sure if I've met him before. I met him locally here, put a call to action out, and he was like, I'll be there tomorrow at 8 a.m. and I'll wash hash with you. So yeah, should be fun. I always love getting in the lab and getting my hands dirty. And hey, how cool was it, Fletch, that it was the Rainbow Belts rosin that I bought at the fucking dispensary here in Vancouver? For real. You can look that up. It's Woody Nelson is the company in the Kootenays. And the hash variety, or the hash company, is called High Fidelity. And everything about it was cool. They sold the hash in almost like one of those deodorant, those round, short deodorant things. You just popped it off, you lifted it up, and then there was a jar inside of it that you cracked the top off. And it was a beautiful, very like accurately well-grown Rainbow Belts. And the funny thing is the guy who grows for that company, Ty Leone, he was a guy that I grew with back in the black market here in Vancouver back in like 97, 98 maybe. I rented a house. I rented a house in the Mount Seymour Parkway on the Mount Seymour River. And this is a beautiful area of West Vancouver. In fact, or North Vancouver, sorry. It was so crazy. This house, another thing about accidents. So a couple of things happened at this house. We were growing weed in this house. It was beautiful. It was right next to the river. But at one point in time, the old Snoopy nosy lady next door, we were kind of always, we weren't, I tried to be friendly with her, but she just seemed nosy. And so she comes over one day and it's like 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock at night. And I'm like, she waves me over. I'm like, oh God. I'm like, hey, what's up? She's like, oh, I just wanted to let you know, like I saw some guy in one of your, he was on in a tree on the property. And he said he was with the North Vancouver RCMP. I said, I don't give a shit who you're with. You can't just be taking pictures of that house and being on my property. And so she basically rats the police out to us, tells us the police have us under investigation. We moved this entire grow like overnight. That night, in fact, it was gone. I went and got like, and let me tell you, 7 or 8 o'clock at night, trying to get big vans or big like cube trucks is very difficult. Most of the companies that rent them are closed. Anyway, so we didn't get in trouble in that house. But one of the things as we were leaving that house, my friend had still been living there for a couple of weeks. He calls me one day and he's like, dude, there's some dreadlocked like guy out in front of the house on our boulevard, and he's got a garbage bag and he's picking mushrooms, dude. And I think these might be the good mushrooms. And I'm like, what? Let me take a picture of one. Send me a picture. So he sends me this picture of this thing, and I see it actually. I go and see the picture, and it's cyanescent mushrooms, and they're literally like, he kicked the guy out, but the guy must have gotten like 10 pounds of them. It was the largest flush on this property that I've ever seen in my life. So much so that the owner eventually dug it all out with a shovel because so many people were coming. It was probably 30 to 40 feet long and just massive flushes of cyanescent mushrooms. Anyway, that accidental discovery of cyanescent mushrooms is how I learned to identify cyanescent mushrooms. And I've picked them every single year since that happened, which was fucking 20 years ago or so now. Pretty wild. Good old cyanescence. Anyway, I don't know. Maybe puff a bowl, chill out. I'm excited to kind of wrap this church up and go play mini sticks with my son, but I think he's still out on his scooter anyway. I have been trying to get Lee Jaffe, who is he was close with the Whalers and Bob Marley. He was the one that photographed Peter Tosh on the cover of Legalize It. And he produced the album and all these things. I was trying to get him on here to go through some of his old photos and tell some old stories of being around the Whalers and Bob and Peter and Bunny in particular, as well as the whole band, and playing with them on stage. He's a harmonica player. Hopefully I'll see if he can come in next week. Otherwise, yeah, I think I'm going to call it a day. I appreciate you guys all coming on. Really great to hear from everyone. Caleb, Fletch, always appreciate you. Savvy, first time on Hash Church. Tim, it's been a while since we've had you. It was nice to have you again.
Thank you.
Appreciate your ability to articulate and to share your
working on not sounding like a robot.
Dude, you're perfect, man. You sound exactly the way you're. Just be authentic, no matter what it is. However you're supposed to sound is how you should sound, and I double down on that all day long. I'm gonna come see you, Fletch. I'm gonna figure it out. I'll maybe just walk across, get dropped off at the border, and go rent a car. I think that's my easiest bet. I just don't want to take the chance with my truck coming over the border and having them say, "Hey, you pull over there, and let's just find out what you've been doing in this truck for the last 2 years." We don't need that. Anyway, shut up.
Take the bus or the train.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe I'll get my wife to take me to the bus depot or the train and just go from there. I want to thank the Press Club for sponsoring the show, as well as Puffco. Appreciate you guys. Shout out Puffco. Shout out the Press Club. And yeah, I'm not sure where Dr. Mark or Etienne or Colin were, our regulars today, but it was kind of nice to have a completely different conversation with a completely different group of people. I really appreciate you guys for coming on. So thank you for that. Thanks everyone for watching. I think we had about 300 live at one point in time. So that's a good amount of people that are tuning in and listening. May the full mount bless your bowl sooner than later, everyone. Peace out. That's it for me. That's all she wrote.